Welcome to the Wednesday Club.
It's the Wednesday Club. Hi, we're the Wednesday Club. And this is Hector Navarro. He's part of the club today.
Hi, everybody. I was just on that set over there 2 minutes ago. So if you were still watching that thing, thanks for continuing to watch.
You
whatever
bamped
you're watching.
over.
You bamped over. That's right.
Bamped over.
You've come so far, Hector.
Thank you for joining the Wednesday Club. First, we want to start off by saying to whomever sent us these Rocket Raccoon mugs, thank you. The Team Who Man was all that was on the card, but we're all enjoying our coffee from these mugs right now. Is that good coffee?
No, but it's a very nice mug that makes the coffee better. This is the swill we drink to stay alive.
Should I stop making the coffee?
I love that you I love that you make the coffee.
Matt, my coffee is excellent.
Thank you,
What
Amy.
Taliesin is talking about.
You'll get extra coffee next week.
Well, thank you.
You'll get extra coffee rations.
She's going to regret that.
So thank you for joining us. My name is Matt Key. We've got Hector Navarro here. That's your name, right?
That's right.
Hector Navarro?
That's my name.
That's your name?
That's it. Yeah.
We also have...
I'm Amy Dallen.
And
I'm Taliesin Jaffe.
you can find us here every Wednesday on the Wednesday Club. All right, that's our show, everybody. Good
Hector,
night.
have you ever talked about books or comics on the internet?
I have. I have. In fact, I completely forgot, but I was going to wear our T-shirt of the poll. I totally forgot I was going to do that, but instead I went with my Spider-Verse.
It's so good.
It's on theme for what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, what are we talking about today?
we're talking about Spider-Man and all that entails, and I'm just so happy to be able to talk about comics because we had a show called The Poll a while ago, and if I had known then that all it would have taken to continue to do that comic book show was Taliesin, I would have bugged him way more. Way more. You guys, you did it. You're smart. Everybody out there, very smart. All it took was Taliesin. All it took was continuing to bug him. Please, 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 please come on the show.
But if you are watching this on Alpha, you can also tune into Comic Book Club. Alpha Comic Book Club.
We just read Fables, and I've never read it.
Oh, I love that
I've never read Fables.
Get to volume 3.
Okay, I'll get to volume 3. We read the first deluxe, which was the first 10 issues or the first 2 volumes,
Nice.
right? It was the first one, and then Animal Farm, and then I want to keep reading it.
Oh, Boy Blue, man.
it goes
Boy Blue.
so far,
That's
man.
what I hear.
love
and
that
then
series.
for next week, we're reading next Tuesday. We're going to be talking about a book, another comic I've never read, Lone Wolf and Cub.
Yeah.
Which is like a manga, right? It's like a classic, you know. So I'm really looking forward to that.
That's cool.
That's my wallet and keys. Thank you so much.
Yay.
Forgot 'em.
Producer Liz.
Yeah. Chief's note: Alpha Comic Book Club is on Mondays at 6 p.m. Pacific, exclusively on Project Alpha. And I think that's now Tuesdays. But other than that, Chief, that's a good note. We'll have to
Yes, Tuesdays, look at that,
in the
real
next
time.
issue.
Look at that.
No shit! Oh wow,
Right?
cool. It's like a digital comic book. Yeah. It updates digitally.
It's real good.
Welcome to our ridiculous.
Wow, cool.
Welcome to our welcome to our secret headquarters.
I'm blown away.
We've got Ken Wynn, who drew Spider-Man in front of the Hall of Justice for us. Thank you, Ken.
Awesome.
Very nice.
And not just any Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man with
Yeah.
that cool, sexy Alex Ross logo. I love that.
Yeah.
That's great. Oh my God.
So the reason for the topic today, I believe, was that we were like, Hector, come on the show. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Right?
And you said Spider-Man. You're still getting over our
It's
set.
cool. You can look around.
Do you need to get up and play with some knobs and everything?
Later.
They don't really do anything, but it's fun to play with.
You break them and then the crew yells.
Yeah.
That's the twist.
So we called it. Sorry.
Oh my God.
We called the show Spectacular Spider-Verse today. Spider-Verse is kind of the collective phrase for everything Spider-Man, but it was also the name of a Dan Slott story from 2015? 2014, 2015?
14, 15, I
God,
think.
is it that long ago?
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, November 2014. I wrote it down because I knew I might need to know that.
So Spider-Man, Spider-Man's kind of an ubiquitous character. Like, is the Marvel character? It's kind of the Marvel reader point of view. I feel like
Mickey Mouse.
he's I mean
Mascot.
you don't feel like you're Captain America. Like Captain America is like a good guy, and like Thor is up here, and then Spider-Man was always the character I felt like I could maybe be.
Yeah.
Kind of a mess up.
Yeah.
And I think like
you're all Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I'm Doctor Strange. but
Yeah.
thank you.
Actually, yeah, you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
The rest of us.
one of the things that I think is like Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four, I think were such big hits for Marvel when they first started. Because I think when Fantastic Four, Hulk, Ant-Man, and then Spider-Man, Hulk and Ant-Man, let's create the Avengers and throw them on a team because no one cares about those comics. But Fantastic Four and Spider-Man immediately get their own runs.
Those sales of Amazing Fantasy 15, man,
Yeah.
they were.
So what was Amazing Fantasy 15? What a weird name.
I know, it was Amazing Adult Fantasy.
That sounds even
Originally.
worse.
That's
Yeah, I would read that comic.
Or a sexier.
Amazing Adult Fantasy.
15.
Ooh,
What a
Tor. Ooh, Gore. I don't know the names of those
You're
monsters.
just making up Kirby monsters?
Yeah, I'm just making up
Googum.
Kirby- yeah.
I think
Googum.
Tor may have been a real.
Wham! I think it was
Tor might be a real-
T-O-R-R.
Did Groot,
Behold, Tor, and it's like
did
an
Groot
orange guy.
show up? No, he was in Tales to Astonish.
Tales to
Yeah,
Astonish.
but
was
still,
great.
like Groot showed up in the 50s.
Yeah.
We just did a nice little topic shift to
Oh,
the
yeah,
fact
too
that
much.
Spider-Man came out of a tradition at what was about to be called Marvel Comics, where they were doing a lot of sort of anthologies and a lot of different kind of monster stories and trying out things in different genres. And one of those was just all sorts of like reality plus stories that fell under the heading of Amazing Adult Fantasy, the magazine that respects your intelligence was their tagline. Then like that series, I believe, was getting canceled, right?
Yeah, I
Yep.
love the story. The thing about a Stan Lee story is you don't know how much of it is true. The fact that he is still around to tell them, or at least to continue to embellish them, is super charming. But you know, as you get older, you're like, wait a minute, I don't know. Like, you don't know how much of it is true. And the story goes that his wife, the same with the Fantastic Four. With the origin of the Fantastic Four is that Stan Lee was on his way out. Stanley Lieber wanted to go write the next great American novel.
Real books that would matter.
Real books. That's why
Real books.
Stan Lee was a pseudonym.
Exactly,
Because he wanted
yeah.
to put his actual
Exactly.
name on the great American novel.
And I also think, too, there's a part of being Jewish in the 60s that Stan and Jack were like, well, let's be Stan Lee and Jack Kirby instead of
Sure.
Stanley Lieber and Jacob, what was it? Jacob Kurtzberg.
Yeah.
Right. But also that of the other identity. And when he did Fantastic Four, he was on his way out. His editor, who was golfing with the editor at DC Comics or National Comics,
Most of the time.
said, "Oh, we're having such success with the Justice League of America, with all of our superheroes in one book, and team superheroes, and superheroes are back, and I'm having a lot of success." So the editor came back to Stan and was like, "We need a team." But Stan was like, "We don't have any characters to begin with." So then that's how the Fantastic Four came about. Definitely a spoof on Challengers of the Unknown. Definitely
DC book about
Kirby.
a bunch of explorers.
You know, doing another monster thing. And the failsafe was, if this doesn't sell, the Thing is in this comic book. So we can just go back to doing monster stories that Marvel does. Like if anything, this will be a Thing book.
Yeah.
If the Fantastic Four element, because that's why they didn't have costumes until issue 3 or 4 or whatever, right? When the Thing started to take off. But just like with the Fantastic Four, Stan Lee saying, "I don't want to write this type of a story." His wife saying, "Well, you're on your way out. Just write this type of story you would want to write." Okay, I'm going to have them bicker and fight and have marital problems and, be mad at each other and not be a typical cookie cutter superhero, Silver Age, golly chum type of a thing. The same thing happened with Spider-Man. He had an idea for a character that was, again, back then, pretty revolutionary, against the grain. Here's a teen hero. He's not the sidekick. He's not Spider-Boy, he's Spider-Man. He's poor. He's taking care of his sick aunt. He has money problems.
He's a
He
shy,
has
ordinary teenager.
acne. He
He's
gets sick.
Midtown High's only
He
professional
can't
wallflower.
talk to girls. And his editors were like, none of that stuff sounds cool at all. Like, why would you put that in a comic book at all? Readers aren't going to want to do that. Teen characters are sidekicks like Robin. They're not Batman. Like, you can't, the hero is the adult character that readers have to look up to, or young readers look up to. And on top of all of that, nobody likes spiders, Stan. Why would you go with Spider? Those are icky things that people don't like. But again, Stan Lee was basically like, fuck it, I'm leaving. So here's a canceled series where he's trying stuff out. The last issue number 15 of Amazing Adult Fantasy, now Amazing Fantasy number 15. And I don't know if you guys have ever read the rest of the stories, but they're also kooky and crazy. Like Peter Parker, Spider-Man's like 15 pages or whatever, super short. Less than that,
Even
maybe
way
like
less.
like 8 or 10 or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
And then
Super,
it's like
super
the
short.
rest of it's like this weird guy who lives on an island and who has like a horn, and I don't know what the rest of them were.
Yeah, I just reread that. There's like a whole
But
Martian
it's
invasion
so weird.
thing. Yeah.
It's so weird, Martian invasion thing.
Just
but
a
then
bunch of short stories. And
and
what
again,
about
it's-
this Spider Kid?
it's just the Spider Kid, and that initial story was so good that we're still telling that story.
I am going to stop
all
and
these
just
years
give
later.
a shout out. You can get a hold of Just Amazing Fantasy 15 digitally or get it on Marvel Unlimited if you're a subscriber to that.
Yeah.
It is frankly astonishing
Yeah.
how much of what we know and love of Spider-Man
Is
is
in those
in
first few
that
pages.
Just
tiny
happens
story.
immediately.
Like,
It's
Yeah.
like the perfect formula, the perfect art, And even the fact that Uncle Ben never says it, but it's in the last caption, with great power comes great responsibility, becomes the theme and the through line for the entire idea and concept of this character.
There are single iconic images in that first issue that just repeat over and over. Like the head bowed walking through the alleyway with the mask off, with the sweaty brow, with the glasses as he's just been. Like there's just these really iconic.
And this, of course, it was written by Stan Lee and drawn by Steve Ditko.
I love the story that Stan Lee had maybe it's apocryphal, maybe it's not true. I don't know. Like you said, Stan Lee is one of the greatest tellers
He's a really
ever.
Good storyteller.
He's
for better
carnival
for
barker.
Yeah, but one of the stories that I heard, and correct me if it's not true, is that he originally went to Jack Kirby and was like, "Hey, I've got this idea for this bug guy, this spider guy."
Yeah.
And Jack Kirby's like, "Yeah, I'll do designs for it. Whatever, you pay my bills." So he does designs for it, but it's blocky and heroic, and he's like, "Nah, he's too heroic."
Is that correct?
That's not
Steve Ditko. This is Steve Ditko, right? This has to be.
That's not the real cover.
Interesting.
But this may have been the cover that happened before the iconic classic
maybe.
cover,
I
and
don't know.
this isn't Kirby, right?
What's that?
Move the other book.
Yeah, move that book.
Interestingly, I don't know what we're looking at here.
We're looking at an unused cover of Amazing Fantasy 15.
Yeah, 'cause
Nice.
that's not the real cover. Because
That's
he's not doing like the
everybody knows
intense.
thing.
Does it have an artist signature there? Maybe that's the original Kirby.
I don't know if it is. There might be a Kirby layout or something.
The dialogue is right.
I'll read and I'll find out. Let's see
Yeah.
what it says here. No, this is
there's
Steve.
a-
Brought all these wonderful books, by the way.
There's
So
all
it
this
says
Spider-Man everywhere.
This is all my crap. It's all my stuff from home. It hurt my back bringing it. It says here, artist Steve Ditko's original cover for Amazing Fantasy 15, August 1962. Writer-editor Stan Lee rejected this cover and had a new one penciled by Jack Kirby, then inked by Ditko.
I did not know that.
Didn't know that.
I must have thought that the book would have a better chance of selling if Jack did the cover. Lee commented years later. So the one we
Lily's
have
like, why did I do that? I have no
must have
idea.
thought
This
that.
seems like a good guess.
is penciled by.
there we
this
go.
is it. This
That's
one,
there
yeah,
we
this
go,
makes sense.
yeah.
That
We're
this
gonna
was
show you guys.
This was penciled by Jack
I think
Kirby.
we probably gotta
Drama.
here. I think here's where we can kind of show stuff right now.
Oh,
God
does
only
that
knows.
look good?
We don't actually have our monitors, so we have no idea
we
what
lost our
anything
vanity
looks like.
screen, so we don't know.
There it is.
Okay, sounds good. All
All
right,
right,
it
great.
worked. Great.
Or they can bring things up. So.
But no, I mean, just that first issue. It had everything in it. I mean, it had everything that you needed. It was so
It
good.
had the origin, like with him doing the wrestling. It had him letting the criminal get away and then like killing Uncle Ben. Like spoilers, by
Yeah,
the way, if you don't
so
know
hey,
any of that.
I think we're
Tell
at
me
that
about
point.
Spider-Man. Who
What's
is
your
he?
What's your
Some
favorite
of
thing
our
about?
watchers don't do American
Like,
comics. They
literally,
probably know who
what?
Spider
Are
is.
you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
We
a
have you on
show.
to talk about all of this.
Spider-Man is the
Educate all of
greatest,
us.
is in my opinion, and it's also just a fact, the greatest superhero character ever created. Hands
for
down, the greatest superhero character ever created. I think he's a better character than Batman, who I think is the other contender for the greatest superhero fictional character ever created. And I think he's a better character than Superman, only because he has the unfair advantage of being created 20 years after they were. And they're archetypal. And Spider-Man is a real human being. He's a fleshed out, he has a personality. He's a flawed character who exemplifies trying, just the word trying. And to me, that's more heroic than already is heroic.
Yeah.
Superman and Captain America and Batman, they are the heroic ideals. And Wonder Woman and, Cyclops, these guys that are just like straight and narrow, they are incredibly heroic, but they're Jesus Christ, they're Samson, they're these archetypal figures that we look up to and we aspire to be. They're the ideal that we're supposed to strive towards. They're the characters that a lot of comic book readers can't relate to because they say Spider-Man is OP too powerful, or Superman is OP too powerful, Superman is too much. Superman is the one who's supposed to lead us and someday we will follow. Well, the someday guy is Spider-Man. He's living in the here and now and he tries and he fails constantly.
Yeah,
Spider-Man struggles.
failure is a big key to this character.
A huge character, and this is why he's my favorite fictional character of all time and my favorite superhero, and I think the best. I like to compare him to Batman, and I love Batman, but Batman is malleable. Batman is somebody who you can tell any kind of a story with, and he's been told in every kind of a story. He's a vampire, he's a cowboy, he's Batman, he's everything. But it's also like, I read it and I'm like, well, he's not like a real guy. Like, this is a Batman comic book I'm reading. This isn't a real, Here's how I compare Spider-Man to Batman and why I think Spider-Man is tops, tippity tops. Batman was 8 years old when his parents were killed in front of him. There was nothing he could have done about it. I hate to say it, guy, you got to get over it. There was nothing you could have done. You were literally a child. Like, it's cool that you took a tragedy and turned a great thing, like you turned that into a great thing. Spider-Man directly caused the death of his uncle.
Oh, directly caused is a
Directly
strong...
caused the death of his uncle, Amy. It was his fault.
I would contest that. Was
Go on,
instrumental.
Go on.
Instrumental in the death. Thank you.
Was
Instrumental.
not
in the
instrumental in the death, but could have
prevented
stopped.
it.
He could have prevented
it.
If he had been
I'm
a
saying
decent human being.
Bruce Wayne couldn't have.
No.
But Spider-Man, Peter Parker, could have prevented, if he were a decent kid, a decent human being, prevented the death of his uncle. And not only that, he directly caused the death of his college girlfriend. Directly.
Yeah.
Directly.
Guys, she was falling off a bridge. Failing to save her
she was
is
going
not
to-
the same as actually killing her.
She was going to die anyway from the fall. It just
He
sucks that
failed
Yeah.
to save her.
Failed to save her.
Hardcore.
he failed to save her, but it sucks that she was going to die one of two ways.
We are.
I like, this is your argument
This
for
is
why
it.
he's
The girl,
great.
Yes.
the
Okay.
college
And
girlfriend we're
yeah.
speaking of is Gwen Stacy. We'll be
course.
getting into a bit of that,
Of
and
course.
we're going to be getting into the DNA of this character on
Yes.
a very fundamental level.
And this for
Very
me,
excited
this for
about
me
it.
is the DNA because instrumental. He could have helped. He was there. He had the power. He had the ability. Instrumental in his uncle's death that he could have prevented. Instrumental in his college girlfriend's death, who he was so in love with her. He was planning to propose, and she never knew. There it is, right there. She never knew Swick that he was
It's a little
Spider-Man.
snap.
Snap. It's
The
a little
snap
It's
heard
the
around the
snap.
world.
Yep.
And yeah, absolutely. Her neck snapped. Gwen's neck snapped because of Spider-Man's webbing catching her foot, catching her ankle, and he never told her that he was Spider-Man. Peter Parker never told Gwen. Peter never told her. So it's like you can go look at that and go, if Peter had told her, would circumstances led to the Norman Osborn kidnapping her? Like, could things have been different? These are things
did
that
she die still believing that he had killed her dad?
possibly.
I don't remember because I know
Possibly.
Because this was the thing with Gwen Stacy's father was police chief, Captain
George Stacy.
And Spider-Man was fighting one of his foes, Dr. Octopus, Otto Octavius, and Otto Octavius threw some rubble, and George Stacy threw a kid out of the way and then got hit by the rubble. And according to the police reports, according to the media, it was Spider-Man who knocked the rubble onto the pedestrians down
Untrue.
below. Thanks,
Untrue.
J. Jonah Jameson. Totally untrue. But if you read Marvels, Alex Ross and Kurt Busiek's Marvels, Gwen Stacy, I think, maybe kind of came to an understanding of, like, maybe it wasn't this Spider-Man character. Like, the way that she talked about her father's death to reporter Phil Sheldon, who was a photographer, all that other thing. So, in any case, both of these two tragic deaths, he was an adult who had the ability to prevent it in some fashion. I'm saying Bruce Wayne, 8-year-old kid, nothing he could have done, right?
And your point is this makes Peter Parker awesome.
I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
This is the lesson, kids. Despite all of that, I could get so worked up about this, I could tear up. I'm not even kidding you.
I'm so excited. We're
I'm
gonna go
not
some
even
places.
kidding you.
We're going some places soon.
Despite all of that, Peter Parker chooses to live his life with a sense of humor. He laughs in life's face. He cracks jokes constantly. He decides that he is still worthy of love. He gets married. In some versions of stories,
Sort of.
he has kids. I mean, to me, he's married. But still, he still has a serious relationship after the fact with one of his best friends. He still chooses to do the right thing, even though he failed monumentally. And his approach to life, his outlook on life, his philosophy on life is the exact opposite of a character like Batman, who that one thing happened to him that there was no way he could have done anything about it, and the rest of his life is dictated, and he's also a dick, and he's also closed
He
off.
lives
and
in
he's
his
also,
shadow and he lets it prevent him from living his life.
even when his loved ones around him, Nightwing, Alfred, Batgirl, Robin, Oracle, all of these people are telling him, you have a family, Bruce, we love you constantly. He's still always like, no. And it's like, Bruce, first of all, get over it. Secondly, you have a family. But Spider-Man is the guy who, this happened to him. He lost the love of his life, and still he goes,
Gotta
okay,
pick it up.
gotta pick it up, gotta go tell some fucking jokes. Let's go be like, that is the
Gotta go save the
greatest.
city again.
Even
He
when
does his
there's
best.
no chance, he does his
does his
he
best.
is trying. Even when there's a huge electrical explosion and he sees an Avengers Quinjet riding into the eye of the storm, and he sees the X-Men and it's a Fin Fang Foom Dragon or whatever, he'll still turn to Mary Jane or whoever and be like, I gotta go help. It's like you got no fight
It's
in this, bud.
Dormammu. Like,
yeah,
how do you, like,
and he'll be like, I gotta go help Stephen Strange fight Dormammu. Like, are you kidding me? You are ill-equipped, my friend.
No one wants you there.
Stay home.
No one wants you
all you
there.
can do
Stay
is
home.
shoot webs and dodge his flames.
Keep watching The Notebook with Mary Jane Watson curled up on the couch. The Avengers got it, but he still will leave his apartment.
Because he's a hero at heart, and that's what heroes do.
Well, I mean, I'm going to get into this conversation because one of the things that I love about him is that it's not just that he's a hero, because Captain America is a hero, it's that he's flawed. is that some of his heroism comes from very, very dark impulses. I mean, like.
And for our audience's sake, we're going to
Yeah,
talk
we
about the
gotta
fact
slow
that
down
like
for you
a lot
poor
of characters
guys.
ended up like developing. If they didn't start out with this kind of moral complexity and sophistication, a lot of them have now been written in really interesting, complex ways. But Spider-Man's the reason for a lot of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it worked. Because they tried this with this character, and people went like, I didn't know you could do this. I didn't know this could work. And
I mean,
people
that
went
was-
nuts for it.
That
and
was
they,
sort of.
like,
Sorry.
It upped the level of psychological realism across comics.
That's sort of like where the Silver Age kind of happens is with like JLA, yes, but then Fantastic Four and Spider-Man are like, hey, the heroes can be humans and can have human problems.
Yep.
It was the beginning of the
great.
relatable character as opposed to the aspirational.
Yeah.
And the Silver Age, a lot of people say the Silver Age ended when Gwen Stacy died.
It's
Yep.
conventionally considered the beginning of the Bronze Age.
An Amazing Spider-Man, yeah, and it goes into the Bronze Age, which
'Cause it got
characters start
darker
to
and
get.
moodier
And now
and
we're in the
yeah.
70s and
121.
80s. 121, thank you. The 70s and 80s, Punisher, Wolverine, and now we're in the 80s. And then
Yep.
we're in the 90s.
Spider-Man's
And,
a
you know, we don't talk
trendsetter in
about
good
the
and bad ways. Spider-Man was
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna have a big character death and it's gonna mean a lot to you. And everybody else
Well,
was like,
and I-
let's go nuts with death. And then Spider-Man was like, I'm gonna have crazy
Black suit
million
Spider-Man.
selling number
Oh,
one that
yeah.
sets off a boom of speculation.
McFarlane.
And everyone else is like, let's do that. And
Yeah.
oh, Spidey.
Oh, Spidey. And I think it was Jerry Conway did the death of Gwen Stacy, right? I think he said that they decided he's in enough of a relationship with Gwen Stacy
Like your paper internet.
that
better than real internet.
your analog internet that Spider-Man can go one of two ways with Gwen
Yeah.
Stacy. They can get married, or she can die.
Yep.
And if she gets married,
Covers
that
right
will change the character in a way that they didn't like. So they were like, well, I guess we gotta kill her then.
So it sucks to be a female supporting character in comics,
Yeah.
but we grandfather in a couple of really notable exceptions. So did Gwen Stacy get fridged? Yes,
Yeah.
she did. But
the good
is she the
news
reason
is-
that we roll our eyes when you do it because you aren't doing it as well, and it's been done before? Yeah.
Yes, and for me, I've always been, okay, we have to get into this argument. Gwen Stacy or Mary Jane Watson? What side of that
Well-
debate do you fall on? For me, it's easy, no choice. It's Mary Jane Watson. But I will say
it
this:
was Mary Jane until this book. This book changed a few
you
things
like
for me.
Gwen Stacy in that.
I thought the
Ultimate Gwen is
Ultimate
great.
What you got there?
This is Ultimate Spider-Man. This is
Yeah.
this is actually Volume 1 of Ultimate
This
Spider-Man.
is also that, but this is also a encyclopedia. But
so
yeah.
this book.
Chief, you got to choose.
For those who were daunted by Spider-Man back in the night when the movie started coming out, by the sheer amount of Spider-Man there was to read, they kind of did a universe reboot where they started over a brand new, more modern take on Spider-Man called Ultimate Spider-Man.
They did this with a number of books. It was called The Ultimate Universe.
And they were totally
which was numbered 1610.
1610 was a totally disconnected universe where they kind of try a modern retelling of the Spider-Man story, and with like a little bit of flourish and a little bit of something different. I really like this book.
Yeah.
I think this is
Yeah.
such a great intro to Spider-Man.
That was huge for me because I was reading that when it was coming out and I was in high school. And for me, what that did was, again, I was growing up in an era where internet started to become a thing, but before internet, I went to the public library and found Marvel, 5 Fabulous Decades of the World's Greatest Comics, I think it was, which was basically this. This is another big encyclopedic picture book type thing, but about all of Marvel. And I learned a lot of my comics history through things like that. And then the internet sort of helped me fill in those gaps. But from what I knew of Spider-Man from the cartoon show, the 1990s cartoon show that I was watching when I was a real youngin', and comic books I was reading at that time, I was able to fill in some of those blanks with like, here's what happened, here's what happened. Reading Ultimate Spider-Man in 2000 to relive the origin, I basically used that, and that informed my imagination when I go back and reread the classic Steve Ditko, Stan Lee stuff, because it's of course dated because it's from 1963, Jiminy Cricket.
Yeah.
But you read that and you're like, okay, this is
I
what
get it.
This
I
is.
get it.
I
Yeah.
get it.
And it's a well-paced, really interesting retelling. And if you want to start
a
somewhere,
great job, and the
does a very
Bagley
good
art
job.
is great. Yeah, totally agree.
Absolutely.
and the great thing is it's quite a few volumes. It's like 14 volumes, 15 volumes, but it does encapsulate an entire Spider-Man arc. There's a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
There's an end to this book, which is kind of nuts.
And
It's
the
on the
end
table
is where
It's-
Miles.
It's on the table somewhere.
We
no.
have a table. A
before-
question from Mommy Panda 35.
Oh, Mommy
Question:
Panda.
How do you feel about Miles?
We already. I feel like we're too soon getting. How long
soon.
is this
Too
show?
soon
How
for
long
Save
is
it,
this
we'll save
show?
it.
We'll
By
get
the
into
way,
it.
you
Here's
asked
the-
MJ or Gwen, and chat said Black Cat.
Chat, you don't know what's good for you, and you're gonna make some terrible mistakes.
But you're
No
gonna
shit.
have.
But there'll be fun mistakes.
Yeah.
There'll be fun mistakes.
You're gonna have a
man.
real good time. That book right there also makes me cry. This is it.
God, what an
Yeah.
amazing
Spoilers
book.
for what happens in the book.
Yeah.
They titled the book "What Happens in the Book."
And,
Yeah.
and I love, and I will say, I love that the Ultimate Spider-Man deals with some of like there are. Oh, what?
I'm sorry, we have a question in chat. Question: Who would Matt Key? I'm going to tell you this question, and then I'm going to tell you who asked it. Question: Who would Matt Key leave his wife for? Mary Jane or Gwen?
I know who asked
Answer
this.
the question, Matt.
Did Brittany ask
Says
that?
Brittany Wallace.
Yeah. Matt Key would never leave his wife.
Squirrel Girl.
Matt would marry Squirrel Girl.
And
Oh my God, why are you so close?
And Matt did marry Squirrel Girl, and they lived happily ever after.
Lived happily ever after. Thanks, buddy. Thanks. Solid save.
But the correct answer is
my
Mary
wife.
Jane Watson. Mary Jane Watson.
No, I like Mary Jane was such a well-developed female character for that
Yes,
book.
and because I also grew up in the 2000s, on top of Ultimate Spider-Man, there was for me the J. Michael Straczynski run of The Amazing Spider-Man, where he's an adult, where he's 28 and he's married in this right here, married to Mary Jane Watson Parker. Mary Jane was a fully fleshed out character in this, and this
Yeah.
was and them two as a married couple was hashtag relationship goals.
Oh, yeah.
And so I've always been a Mary Jane guy, but thankfully because of comic book retellings and comic book movies, I got to give a shout out to Emma Stone. Since the original death of Gwen
changed a lot of
Stacy,
minds.
she changed a lot of minds. Since the
Yeah.
original 121 back in 1970, whatever, where
Early
frankly.
70s.
Frankly, Gwen Stacy as a character was also like one note for me. Like if you go back and read that stuff, it's not as obviously,
which is why Ultimate really picked it up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Picked up that slack, and also movies, and also fleshing out Gwen's. Anytime they would do a flashback, Spider-Man Blue is another great example.
Oh,
This was
Spider-Man
funny to
Blue.
me because I have a friend who is very strongly Team Gwen Stacy.
Sure.
Except that, like, Spider-Man Blue, which is ostensibly all about mourning Gwen Stacy, makes my friend super mad. Because
it's all
the
about MJ.
story of Spider-Man Blue is really sort of all about how the events of Peter's love for Gwen and his loss of Gwen led to him finding the love of his life, Mary Jane.
As it should be.
As it should
That's
be.
why it's always you always got to pick Mary Jane.
Beautiful story.
Yeah, Mary Jane. I fell in love with the character of Mary Jane when, especially after reading Spider-Man Blue too, because Peter Parker's reminiscing in that story about his time with Gwen Stacy on the anniversary of her death, and it ends with he's up in his attic or whatever. It ends with his wife at the time, or girlfriend, fiance, whatever, but they're in a serious relationship. Mary Jane Watson essentially saying, "Hey, say hi to Gwen for me, Peter," and then she like closes the door and like lets him kind of because they were friends, and people forget. That's why I'm always cool with you got to introduce Gwen Stacy first, or even have Mary Jane sort of always in the picture. Kind of
like-
from the beginning, and that's why I'm really excited about that new Spider-Man Homecoming movie and their decision to make Mary Jane Michelle. I really like that she's in the film, she's there from high school. It's kind of true to the comic. It technically is true to the comic, but the idea that Gwen Stacy dies while Peter, Gwen, Harry, Flash Thompson, MJ, they're all friends in college.
Yeah.
Mary Jane loses a friend, a female friend, when Gwen dies. And it isn't until after that that Mary Jane goes to Peter and she goes, "You know what? You went through this thing. I got to tell you about my thing. I came from a broken home. I seem like a party girl. I seem like the life of the party. But actually, here's my real shit." And they became better friends. And then they became, oh, we have feelings for one another. And the fact that Peter Parker would even ever be with anybody after his college girlfriend dies at his own hand, kind of, is inexcusable, if not for the fact that Mary Jane was also her friend. And then her and Peter became stronger friends. And then they were both like, "Should we do this? Do we have feelings for each other? We love each other."
Well,
and then he proposed multiple times, and she was like, "No." Until finally she was like, "Okay, well, I'll marry you." That's why Mary Jane's the best. She's the best.
It's some of the most adult mourning I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and like their relationship was sort of like born out of that mourning in some
Yes.
capacity, which I think is kind of like, again, like very complex human
So
The
emotion.
iconic moment is, of course, the MJ who has, and I think had dated Peter on and off because in the 60s it was
a
sort of
tiger.
more like you're
Bro.
supposed to casually date different people. That was more normal then.
No, the two aunts got it together.
Let me say this.
They were trying to like,
Anytime anybody on the internet gives me shit for having a problem with Tobey Maguire and liking Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker, anytime, they're like, Toby was better because Toby was a nerd and super shy and had no social skills, and that's who Peter Parker is. I'm like, pause for a second. Peter Parker was dating Mary Jane and Gwen Stacy at the same time, y'all. At the same. Don't even come to me with that shit. Look at a John Romita drawing. He's handsome as hell. Yeah. He's handsome.
No, he's a very
handsome,
attractive man.
Charming, funny, sensitive, caring. You know,
we're,
He's a catch. He becomes a catch.
Jessica Jones is crushing on him pretty hardcore.
That's a really
In high
wonderful
school. I mean,
line.
it's a retcon, but
there's a reason
it's a
for
good
that.
one.
it's a great retcon. I'm not arguing.
There's a reason.
I
you
have
know?
to laugh here because, like, you are correct about how it sort of ends up. They're also correct that, like, he starts out as the, like, you know, in his first appearance, he asked some girl out, and she's like, for the 100th time, just not that into you.
Oh,
like,
I get it.
It is
sure.
supposed to be where he comes from. We kind of do this have our cake and eat it too thing with Spidey, where it's like, he's just like us, except drowning in attractive women who want to date him.
Drowning.
Like, it's a little bit.
I can
It's
get
true.
behind that one.
This is how I rationalize it. Well, yeah,
even
of
allowed to
course.
go there.
Readers of comic books were traditionally young men. Of course, Peter Parker is a fantasy.
Less than anyone thinks.
Historically, right, but back in the day, at least that's what the perceived notion was.
Let's say that's what they were marketing towards.
And he's absolutely a power fantasy, the same way that the Hulk is, the same way that Steve
Yes.
Rogers, Skinny Steve, you know, a lot of superhero characters are. Clark Kent, mild-mannered, and then becomes Superman. If only Lois knew. So there's a power fantasy element, but I will say this. I think that even in the initial idea that Stan Lee and Steve Ditko had of Peter Parker, he was nerdy because he was dressed by his Aunt May and Uncle Ben. He was shy because he was typically smaller and skinnier and not as strong at sports or whatever, and he was also interested in things like science.
Yeah, and this
he was
comes
also
from a time where, like, I'm not. Do you guys want to go to the science exhibit? And everyone's like, we're going to a dance, Peter.
Exactly.
That's what
We're going to the
cool kids
homecoming
do.
dance. That's
And
what you do.
We have a car.
And
We're going
even
there.
in that
Yeah.
Stan and Steve, you know, initial concept, the spider bite, of course, gives him powers, but it also just gives this kid self-confidence because now he knows that he has like superpowers. So the next time Flash Thompson pushes him in high school, and even after he was Spider-Man, but still Peter Parker, he would then stand up to him. But in the world of high school, he was still Peter Parker. He didn't full on put, you know, he didn't show off his powers. He was still, you know, go ahead.
Flash Thompson, by the way, is the bully
I was
in
going to
high
say,
school.
let's flesh out the posse back in high school.
Here's an
Let's
interesting
flesh
thing.
it out really.
Peter arrives immediately, basically whole cloth, Aunt May, Uncle Ben, everything's an Amazing Fantasy 15.
Yeah.
But the supporting cast that we know, a lot of them don't show up to like issue 30, issue 35.
J.
like
Jonah Jameson, Robbie Robertson, Betty Brant.
Jonah Jameson gets there almost right away.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
MJ doesn't show up until like Gwen
She's
gets there in
mentioned,
31.
She's mentioned, yeah.
but-
MJ's mentioned, but she's not. It's the running gag is he always has to like leave before
Yeah.
MJ.
And he never wants to meet her,
No.
because like it's
the two-
it's Aunt May's best friend.
friend is trying to set him up with her.
You've got to meet my niece,
My
Mary
niece.
Jane. She's wonderful.
And he was like,
no, gotta go. I'm not interested. Thanks.
Blind dates, no thank you. But the side note, I really liked Spider-Man Homecoming, but I do not understand why they would not save this reveal of this Zendaya character
I love it.
for that exact I'm getting set up with someone who is
For
it
sure.
scenario. How is that not the
you're
perfect
right.
way to pull
And then, like,
because she
he
just
opens
drops
the
it
door.
in an academic decathlon meeting.
Yeah.
But the famous moment, of course, is when he finally agrees to this blind date with his aunt's best friend's niece or whatever. And they open the door. It's this crazy, stunning redhead, and she
Face
says,
it, Tiger. You hit the jackpot. Because she
Boom!
knows.
She knows. She's
knows.
confident.
She knows.
She's a confident woman. She knows.
Yeah.
anyway,
yeah, they could have had that
Homecoming.
reveal. And also, I thought that I'm glad
I like
that they didn't do in that movie. They didn't do what I thought they were going to do, which was when we heard Zendaya might be MJ, might be Michelle.
makeover.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't
Yeah.
do She's All That.
I mean,
because
I'm
that would
worried
be
it's
really
coming.
easy.
They're
Because
gonna.
Did you see her at the premiere?
They're going here.
Which
what I think.
which is Mary Jane, the
Mary
high
Jane in here.
school friend slash, you know,
There it
first
is.
love of Peter Parker.
Yeah.
In that, yeah, they're going there, and I also think that they're setting her up. Well, of course, movies are, you know, they come out every 3 years if they're pumping them out. Every 5 years if you're lucky. You've got 2 hours to spend. You don't have a monthly comic book that you can read for years where characters can develop and flesh out. And I'm thinking they just slid in MJ as soon as possible because they want that that planting of the seed, so that in the next movie, in the next movie, in the next movie, when Peter meets Gwen Stacy and she dies, MJ was there from the beginning.
Yep.
And even in Spider-Man: Homecoming, they hint at the fact that she's suspicious of Peter, just like in the comic book. She was mentioned, and they retconned and flashback after they got engaged or married or were dating.
Just gonna hit that.
MJ said, "I've
in
known
the
the whole
80s.
time. I've known the whole time you were Spider-Man." And he's like, before he told her, he's like, "What?" They flash back to like her going over to visit her aunt, and then she sees him sneaking out of his house as Spider-Man.
Yeah, and just
which
has
means
known.
the whole time she knew.
She was just helping keep his secret by
She was being cool.
having her own secret. Yeah.
And that's devastating and weird and sad and cool and all these different emotions and all these different things. And you know, hopefully they're kind of planting that stuff so that that character can be this long-lasting, like, because I do think Spider-Man should be with Mary Jane Watson if he's going to be with anybody. I do like them married. I do like that at one point they have a kid. I like all that stuff. I also love that Gwen Stacy became a fleshed-out character later. And I would love to see that explored again. And it sucks. But I think that Gwen Stacy's my one example of like, no, you have to fridge that character. Because it's important to Peter Parker's like growth as a human and all. Like any other female supporting character, girlfriend, wife, whatever, in superhero fiction, I'm like, you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to do that to further.
They turned it into a story about mourning. And so
Yes.
that's not really fridging at that point because it's a story about mourning.
Yeah.
Like that's.
It's the difference between like tropes from TV tropes. Tropes are not bad.
No.
It's this like if used sparingly, if pulled off very well, and if not like you. Before it had been done in comics a million times, it was done in this comic, and it meant a lot. And so I was always basically like, cool. That one's grandfathered in.
Yeah.
If you're going to try to top it, you better work really hard.
A trope is a problem once you've done it so many times that you can subvert it.
Yeah.
If you're capable, if you're capable of subverting a trope because it's so common, then it's
And
been
Marvel
overcome.
did, because now that's how we have Spider-Gwen. They
Oh,
literally.
Oh, and Time Knight points out, and we got to get into that,
you're
but
going
Time
there.
Knight points out that MJ might not be Michelle because they're being vague about it officially.
well,
So this is us
MJ.
acknowledging that, but
First of all,
I don't know.
It's MJ.
Everybody,
yeah, it's MJ.
everybody should just, and I'm talking like fans who watch that movie, we should all just be all in on like, no, that's MJ. And any people who work on that movie that are trying to be coy or whatever, they need to cut that shit out and just go, nah, it's MJ. Like, there's no reason for that character.
There's no reason to play coy.
I will say I
That's
was
not
sad.
con.
I had
It's not
a theory on Betty Brant, and I was sad that my Betty Brant theory did not
what
come
was your
through.
theory on Betty Brant?
I was hoping it was going to be Anna Akana from the end of Ant-Man, was the reporter working for the Daily Bugle.
Oh, that would have been great.
And bringing her in
We
because
got a
she's
spider guy now?
Yeah,
We
I
got
got
a
a
guy
spider
who draws
guy.
on walls?
So
Yeah.
and like that would have been kind of perfect because then it's a bridge to the paper, but it's also
Yes.
she's just young enough that it's not too weird, but old enough where it is a little weird. I would have been really into that.
My hope for bringing the paper into it, Daily Bugle,
Yeah.
is you go through Robbie Robertson and his son Randy. Because Randy and Peter Parker have been portrayed as being the same age. They're in college, and at one point they're even roommates in college. And I feel like, hey, Spider-Man movie now is already super diverse, like a pretty diverse, like ethnically cast. But bring in a young black kid to be Randy Robertson, becomes friends with Peter. Like, I don't need to see Harry Osborn for like a couple of movies. I'm fine. We've had
See, I'm
bunch of
more
Harry.
about the
Making it
Osborns because I
actually
want
look
him to
like
have a
New York.
deep relationship with them, and you got to plant that.
But we can wait a little bit. Bring in Randy, then Robbie,
Let's
the paper.
have
pull it all back.
We're going
Let's pull it all
too
back.
deep. We're going
Let's
too
pull it
deep.
all back.
We're
Let's
too
pull it
deep.
all back. Hector, I want you to tell us, like, in one sentence apiece, the main supporting cast for Spider-Man.
Yep.
Aunt May, Uncle Ben, Flash Thompson, Liz Allen, Betty Brant, Jay Jonah, like, just every single ally, one sentence, go.
First of all, I think outside of Commissioner James Gordon in Batman, Spider-Man has the best supporting cast
I would agree.
of,
Totally
of a
agree.
comic book superhero
Totally agree.
character.
Pretty amazing.
Jim Gordon's great, but the rest of Batman, he's also got like good allies and
Well,
stuff.
he's got Gordon and Alfred, who are both great.
gold
and
standard.
like
Okay.
Robin, all the
Yeah.
sidekicks,
The
great.
Bat
But-
family's wonderful, but that's not the point. Let's talk about Spider-Man.
J. Jonah Jameson is the kind of villainous, but just like really conservative, outspoken media mogul who thinks that Spider-Man is a menace for whatever reason you like. Jealousy, thinks that real heroes don't wear masks like his son doesn't wear a mask, thinks that human beings can't stack up to superhumans.
And he runs the Daily Bugle.
Traditionally,
Daily
he's a
Bugle.
newspaper editor who doesn't trust Spider-Man.
Yeah,
He's
right.
been a
And-
lot of things over time.
Editor-in-chief. Editor, I think, senior editor is his colleague, his friend. That's a great drawing. Spider-Man's fault.
Yeah, that's pretty.
He's the one who's always saying,
perfect.
Spider-Man, a menace!
That's right. And
Yeah.
he's got a weird
Menace.
Adolf mustache,
Spider-Man, threat or menace?
Yep.
Robbie Robertson is his second in command, who's cool-headed, who is the one who has also been hinted at. Maybe he knows that Peter's Spider-Man, but just kind of like lets him. Just might. He's absolutely a staunch ally. Always kind of is the yin to J. Jonah's yang. Betty Brant has been the secretary / also a reporter. Was she ever a reporter in her own right? I know in Ultimate Comics she's a reporter, but she's
like
the
maybe
other,
I'm thinking about Ultimate.
She's
yeah.
like the main sort of female presence at the Daily Bugle. And while she was in college and Peter was in high school, they kind of dated a little bit. So don't tell me he's not handsome and charming. Don't. Toby, you're out. You're out,
handsome?
Toby.
Are you crazy?
In my mind, it is always Anaconda too. Like Anaconda is Betty Brant in my mind.
Love it.
Right
That's
there.
Betty
Look
Brant.
at that.
Betty Brant. What are we doing this? Jody, was that to Toby? Was that what that was? Okay, great. Thank you. Mwah, you're the best.
Call me. These people are crazy.
Toby's such a great actor, but my God, he's a potato. He's so great, but he's so great. He's so great, but he's a potato. Every time I see him, he's a potato. Okay, who do we have next? We've got. I guess we could go.
Do high school. Flash Thompson.
Eugene Flash Thompson.
Eugene, thank you
Is
for that.
the high school, starts out as high school bully, becomes college friend, which is another thing that they did so expertly. They fleshed him out. They sort of cooled him off a little
We
bit. He
could do
became
a
less of a
whole
dick.
episode
He's
on
kind of
Flash.
and is now kind of a hero in his own right, but had a
Because now
long.
he became Venom. He became
Agent
a war hero
Yeah.
who went overseas, I think to Afghanistan or to the Middle East at the time the story was told. Lost his legs in an explosion fighting terrorism, came back to the United States, and afterwards, so he was a veteran who lost his legs. They explored some stories of that with Flash Thompson, then eventually found the alien Venom symbiote and became Agent Venom, where he was able to regain the use of his legs because he could symbiote
We'll
fill
get
in
there,
his
we'll get
legs,
there.
all of that stuff.
Too much.
Classic Flash was 60s version of a high school bully, and you gotta filter this through 60s priorities where side note, I kind of love the thing I made fun of where the have your cake and eat it too with Peter Parker is very interesting because over the course of the decades of Peter Parker, the rest of the world has caught up with him a bit.
Yeah.
In the 60s, I am really into science and athletics is not that important to me. Meant you were kind of you couldn't be big man on campus, and that was a thing. And a lot has changed. These days, I haven't been in high school in a while, but we
cool.
appreciate our smart kids a little more than we used to. And so it's very interesting that over time the world has kind of caught
Shifted
up
a
with
bit.
him a little bit.
That's why I
but
love
traditionally,
Ultimate
Flash,
Spider-Man. He was a web designer
Yeah.
also, so that gave him that
that's
after-school job at the
very
Daily
I'm going to
Bugle.
have some comments about Flash and Spidey in a minute, but I want to clear up the
But it's
rest of
part
the
of
high
why
school
they're evolving,
kids.
in Homecoming, this sense of okay, what does a high school bully look like now? Is it still a jock? Is being a jock important to him? There have been I have a friend who made a really strong argument where she's being a jock is important to Flash if you want to get the rest of his story later. So that doesn't work in the new Homecoming version because he doesn't have that same element. But he's still a mean kid, and a mean kid who thinks Spidey's cool and Peter sucks, which is key.
I think it's a character that will work if they send him into the military. I think if he goes into the military, the Homecoming
That
version
kid
of Flash.
is not ready.
No, well, he's still a kid, but I think he comes back and is oh my God, I have been a terrible human being. I have a few friends who went into the military, went overseas, and came back going, I have reevaluated an awful lot about my life.
That's a good point. And to be fair, I know it's only a PG-13 movie, but really calling somebody Penis Parker, it could have been way worse. Compared to bullying today, it could have been way
worse.
He's still
Way worse.
redeemable. That's all I'm
was
saying.
pretty
He's still
bad.
redeemable.
He's practically friendly.
And
Kinda,
Chad
yeah.
is helping each other out right now with the fact that no, Flash is not the first Venom. There are other people in
there
between.
are other Eddie Brock.
And we're going to get into the villains in a minute, but
I will say I do
We
think
haven't
that.
even talked about Spider-Man's villains.
Oh no. I will say that I think that that's what the Venom movie is going to do. I think they're going to borrow Eddie Brock's Flash Thompson's story as Agent Venom, but give it to Eddie Brock.
they might give it. I wish
That's
they
what I
would
think
give it
they're
to
gonna
you.
do.
Who
We'll
else do
see.
we have for supporting cast? We've
Liz
got
Allen.
Who's Aunt May?
Liz Allen. Oh my God, Aunt May. I didn't even consider that. May Parker is Peter's usually elderly, at least his older than his parents' generation maternal figure who raised
When
him
you
since
meet
he
her,
was a
you're
baby.
like, great aunt? I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
She's just
But
a family
her
figure.
husband Ben, I think they've said her husband Ben Parker had a kid brother who was 10 years younger than him. That's how they kind of explain it away. Is the Parkers.
Weirdly,
man,
I always
man.
figured it fit into an older tradition of just sort of, when shit happens, members of your extended family take care of you, and they're your aunt and uncle. The
That's
end.
absolutely.
And it's very Brooklyn.
There they
But
are.
there's
they
Aunt
are.
May.
That's an amazing fantasy.
She loves making wheat cakes.
All the wheat
You know,
cakes.
and she's been portrayed many different ways, from Marissa Tomei to the sort of short bob sporting
there's the 60s,
Ultimate
the very,
Spider-Man.
the very baby boomer
Yep.
Aunt May in this
Yep.
book.
Absolutely.
Like, a bit more of a hippie.
Oh yeah, like Uncle Ben's got a ponytail in Ultimate Spider-Man.
She doesn't know that Peter Parker's Spider-Man. Some versions she does, and it's awesome. J. Michael Straczynski's fleshing that out. That was a great issue. Of course, Uncle Ben is Uncle Ben. He's, I don't have to explain that to you.
He's really, he's an event more than a person.
That's true.
Oh.
Yeah, that's true.
Sadly, but
No, I mean, like, this is how stories work. This is the DNA of it, is he's a thing that happens.
he's a plot device.
He's
a-
Jor-El and Lara at Krypton. He's
He
not
does
the
actually
Kents.
die to forward someone else's story. It's a
Yeah.
thing that happens.
That's
Yeah.
okay. That's cool. Thanks, Ben. And then we've got Liz Allen, who is the high school most popular girl, most prettiest girl in high school that Peter is going to. And Liz, again, brushes
goes
him
to
off.
Midtown High.
Midtown High, which in the real world equivalent would just be, I think it's like Queens High in Queens, New York.
These days they do it with sort of that he goes to like a science magnet school, right? That's
Exactly,
kind of a more
exactly.
typical for
And
modern day New York.
it's sort of run by Stark in the movie. I think.
And Liz ignores Peter Parker, doesn't give him a second thought until, again, he gets the bite, he gets the self-confidence. Even in high school, Liz starts to notice him a little bit and maybe develops a little bit of a crush because he's standing up for himself. She's noticing, he's actually like a handsome kid. Like, maybe he's dressing a little sharper, whatever. Which leads to, at one point, Liz begins to date and then eventually marries Harry Osborn. Peter's
Who's Harry Osborn?
college best friend, troubled kid, rich kid. Eventually becomes a
Who
drug
has the
addict.
weirdest hairstyle?
Weird hairstyle. Difficult
Like,
to
not
describe
an
in
actual
real life.
hairstyle.
Oh, Steve Ditko,
Yeah.
you just make up
love
rules
it.
of reality and we all
Love it.
accept them,
Yep.
and now you can't
And now
reproduce that in real
some
life.
poor actor has to try and have that hair.
That's Harry. Harry is, he's just kind of like, it's just like a sad case. He's a sad
a
case.
mess. And
he's a mess.
his parents did not do a good job.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
And
His
speaking of
parents.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
we're
we're
saving
get-
that for villains.
Side note, Toon Izon asks if Peter lives in Queens or Brooklyn. And now it's Queens in the movies, but like it's been different places at different times, right?
Traditionally, he was raised in Forest Hills, New York, which is like a suburb area near Queens. It's in Queens. And then when he goes to college, he goes to, I think it's called New York State University.
I thought it was Empire State? I think
Empire,
it was
Empire State,
Empire
yeah.
State University,
ESU.
which is basically NYU. So like he moves to the island, he moves to New York City proper, Manhattan, and then
Because
gets
it
an
gets a
apartment there.
terrible
But a
lives
lot
there.
of the important
Yeah.
details of Spider-Man are just things that accumulated over the decades, and you kind of pick or choose. Like how Hector keeps referring to him as married, even though he hasn't been married for like 10 years, because
pick
that's
what you want. You pick what you
It
want.
definitely, it sat with it. And like, and we talked a bit about the essential DNA of characters like this. Spider-Man is, no matter what iteration you have, Spider-Man is funny. He's nimble.
Yep.
He's
Smart.
very smart. He's also very, what would be the word I would use? Filled with responsibility.
Yeah.
On the negative end of this, and this is sort of, and what I love about this character is he's a flawed character, so there's actual negative attributes to him. He's neurotic, extremely neurotic. He's a bit of a bully. Spider-Man
Yeah.
is definitely a bully. Like a lot of
Peter Parker's not a bully, but
Peter
when
Parker.
he
But he
comes
puts on
into the
that mask.
Spider-Man character,
a lot of his rogues gallery. We're going to be getting into his villains, but a lot of his villains keep coming back because he hurts their feelings. Like one of the reasons why he's got all these villains who keep coming after him is because he makes fun of them and teases them.
This sounds like one of those really interesting sort of secondary growths. I wouldn't
Secondary-
consider
No, I
that
know
an
it's-
essential part of Spider-Man, but given decades of this, you're going to get people who are like, the same way that people start getting obsessed with like maybe Batman's villains exist because Batman exists.
Yeah.
Oh, no, but, like,
it's this same kind of, you're kind of
I'm
overthinking
not-
it, but you're also adding really interesting stuff.
I'm going to say it was not intentional, but it is in the build. Like you put it all together, and there's this little underhand of like he's clever and like says witty things at the
you know what
villain,
it is?
but you keep making fun of Doc Ock. You keep saying, hey, you keep going up to Kingpin and going, you are so fat. Let me, and like I have a list of fat jokes for the Kingpin.
So good.
And like, and they're
Can you
great.
imagine Tom Holland doing that to Vincent D'Onofrio? But you know what it is that Spider-Man is in the 60s, in 1962, 63, so on and so forth. He's pre-internet YouTube comments.
Yeah.
He's the anonymity of the internet. When Peter Parker puts on that mask, he's going to make fun of people. Look at those jokes. Yes, he's
Yeah.
going to make fun of people because he has that safety net.
Yeah.
Because he can finally sort of let loose.
And this is the dark
that
side
can
of
be
him.
very bad, and that's really
Well,
shitty.
and the interesting thing is it's led to two things, which I really love, which I want to talk about, which is that it's led to it led to an issue of Ultimate where the Shocker in the Ultimate, after like his 11th like side defeat, like he keeps defeating the Shocker in like 3 pages as like the beginning, kidnaps him, ties him up, and basically beats on him for like 3 days, crying
Yeah.
because he's just like. But it led to a rogues gallery of people with unbelievably low self-esteem, which made this amazing book. He has belittled his rogues gallery so much that he actually created an amazing rogues gallery of really, I'll go that way, of really sad characters, and it was called The Superior Foes of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
This book is one of my favorite books.
Like C-list sad sack characters.
Like not even C-list,
So
they're like E-list.
Yeah. Boomerang,
This is
Beetle.
unrelated to
Beetle.
anything, but because I've never had a huge group of people to ask this, I work at a comic book store, as you all know. Where would you alphabetize this book?
S.
S for Superior or S for
Yeah.
Spider-Man?
Superior.
Superior.
No one has found it there, and I know they want
Really?
this book.
That's
And
a
I'm
tough-
wondering
that's
if
a
I
tough
should keep
thing.
it under
Do y'all
Spider-Man.
alphabetize, like, that's a good question.
do
y'all
it by title.
alphabetize? You do it by title. You
We'll
don't do it by, like,
occasionally
almost wanna do it by
exceptions.
character.
Like sometimes
Family.
we'll make exceptions where we'll put things in with Batman that aren't like.
You know.
We'll keep a copy of the Azarello
Detective
Joker book
Comics.
under B.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
although mostly it's under J. Okay,
Yeah.
We
that
are,
was a
by the
side
way,
note.
please, we are going to be doing our 5-minute speed question. So if you have questions you want to ask the group of us, and we'll just watch us try and rant about some ridiculous topic at the end of the show.
Does it need to be Spider-Man related?
No, it can be anything.
Yeah.
Please.
Although, y'all, we have so many questions, mostly about our favorite runs and jumping in
Right.
Oh
points.
yeah, but just
Also
letting you know that we are
alphabetize-
doing that.
At home, I alphabetize. I have like a chronology. I do an order of events. That's how I do it because I don't have a comic book store.
Yeah.
Just have a couple shelves, so I can be like, okay, Civil War, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then
Have
Secret
it
Invasion.
digital.
Beautiful.
That's nice. That's how I do it. So I don't
nice.
have to worry about that. I'm like, Superior Foes. Well, I'm going to put it when it came out, and what happens in the story, and that's how I
Okay,
do it.
cool. Let's get to the enemies real
Okay,
quick. The
great.
Rogues
Yeah.
Gallery.
So that Rogues Gallery is really fascinating. Is that
Second best in comics after Batman. After
yeah,
second
easily.
best. Second best.
Easily.
Cool.
That's a close second. And
Yeah,
here's another
close
thing: is a
second.
lot of characters have antithesis characters, like the very much like the anti-Superman is Lex Luthor. They're, I mean, like Venom visually, I know is an
He's the
antithesis.
Bizarro to
He's bizarre.
Spider-Man, Superman.
Who's
He
Venom?
is. Venom is.
Oh, should I do
You gotta
Venom?
go from the
I'll do
beginning.
Venom.
Yeah, do
so
Venom.
there was
Eddie
this
Brock.
there was this very interesting story called Secret Wars, which was a fascinating way to sell toys back in the day.
1985. Yeah.
And they thought it would be cool to give Spider-Man a variant costume, so they got him this black costume that he could run around in and be all
I
cool.
believe I pulled an image of that, Chief.
And he teamed up with the Transformers, and all this
you
cool
find
stuff
it? Hector
happened.
finds it in this book.
And the black alien suit had some superpowers that made it even a little more cool and edgy in 90s. But eventually, the suit started to take him over, and he got a little weird. There was actually an intelligence suit. And so he eventually had to get rid of the suit, and the suit felt really, really upset about this and found somebody who was also mad at Peter, and named Eddie Brock, who was a photographer that had been getting losing jobs. Yeah,
Peter Parker makes money as a photographer. He takes pictures of Spider-Man and sells them to the guy who hates them, J. Jonah Jameson. It's amazing.
God, he's a jerk. He's a
It's-
bit of a jerk. Peter's a
it's
bit
a
of a
good-
jerk.
That
it's
is
a
an early
wonderful
trolling
irony.
from day one. He's kind of like, this will be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm seeing your point.
Yeah,
It's
no,
tragic.
like Peter can be a bit of a jerk, and he's got that streak. But Eddie gets the alien suit, and the alien suit kind of gives him some superpowers, and they go start trying to basically eat Spider-Man.
Exactly. That's
And
Venom.
that happens in Amazing Spider-Man number 300.
The book says, I don't
Right.
know. The book knows more than I
Todd
do.
McFarlane. Yeah, I'll find it right here.
And that's by Todd McFarlane. Yeah.
But there's no like anti-Spider-Man. I'm trying to think of the anti-Spider-Man. Who would be the anti-Spider-Man?
well, if you're thinking
Plucky
of
and irresponsible but evil?
arch nemesis,
with great power comes nothing.
I have to go.
Carnage? I mean,
Spider-Man's his own worst enemy.
I can work the Green Goblin into that.
Okay.
Because the Green Goblin has great power, and he decides to. Norman Osborn
Exploit.
takes that power, exploit it, and he decides to at first like just try to be a criminal. Like he literally just tries to take over the criminal underworld at first, and reaches out to all the villains and reaches out to Spider-Man, and he's like, no thanks. And then he becomes a sort of villain intent on revenge and everything. So
By the way,
he's
I
my-
don't wonder
yeah.
why.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things. There's two things that I love about the Green Goblin. First, there he is. His first appearance is I can't remember, but it's further into the books. It's like 14, 15, maybe even 20, something like that. And he's probably the Spider-Man villain, but he comes in a little bit later in the run.
Yeah.
But the very first
Issues
appearance.
to figure your shit out. We
Yeah.
don't get to do that anymore.
But the very first 14, Amazing Spider-Man 14. But the very first appearance is he tricks a Hollywood producer into signing Spider-Man to be in a movie in Los Angeles, And then the Green Goblin is also going to be in it, and the Enforcers come out, and they're all in a cave. And Green Goblin doesn't have a glider; he has a broom that's a jet broom.
The jet broom.
And he terrorizes Spider-Man during a movie production in a cave, where, by the way, also the Incredible Hulk is
The
like.
60s were a weird
It is just like,
time.
what is this book?
Yeah, it's a
and
little
then,
kooky, y'all.
then at the very end, they hide his identity. He pulls his mask off, and for the next 30 or some odd issues, anytime he shows up, you
don't know.
see him without his mask, but you don't see who he is, and you don't learn that it's Norman Osborn until
Father
like-
of his best friend.
until like issue 34.
And I heard a
And
rumor-
I love that.
I
think that's awesome.
That I agree. I heard a rumor that was one of the reasons that Steve Ditko left Marvel, was because he disagreed with Stan Lee. That Steve Ditko wanted to have the Green Goblin's reveal just be a random nobody to show that crime is random. The mugger who killed Batman's parents
Should be random.
is just a guy. It's-
a guy.
I don't like it when they give him the name, and also the name Joe Chill is real dumb.
That's real dumb.
But I
Yeah.
don't like it, and I don't like it when they make it Jack Nicholson Joker.
No.
I think that
I do like the Batman story where he finds the guy and just slowly drives him crazy, which was always one of my favorites. He just finds the guy and like drives him nuts.
But like,
they did
this
that in
is
Batman Brave and the Bold, I think, which
I
is
think
a lot of fun.
with
Yeah.
Peter's ordinariness is a
Yes.
big part of this. Like, and it's why I don't like the versions of the story where he was predestined to be a spider, or his parents were
Yeah.
secret
Oh, we're
agents,
gonna
or
get
like
into that.
other stuff like that.
Oh no, I like
I'm-
his parents as secret agents, but that's a whole nother thing.
I like
Shield agents.
the ordinariness of Peter is an
Yeah.
important part of that story. There's one moment of great, like, terrible synchronicity in his life, and it's that the random mugger
Yeah.
he decided not to stop because he was cranky that
True.
day turns out to kill his uncle. Like,
and
that's
now
the,
he's
the
panicked
foundational
about that
thing.
for the rest of his life.
But then also from then on, Spider-Man comics are also this huge soap opera where, of course, dun dun dun, the main villain is the father of his best friend.
Yeah.
That's so soap opera, and that's what Stan wanted to do. And I don't know if this rumor is true or not that Steve Ditko was
But
like
I've also
disagreed.
heard that.
And,
I've also heard
so
that.
like, and I get both sides, but I think I really do like Norman being the guy.
We live in the world where Norman was the guy, so it's
Yeah.
hard to imagine it going the other way.
There's also, I mean, like, there are several different classifications of villains that Spider-Man comes up against, and one big one, one of the big ones, are adults who are disappointing.
Yeah.
He has a series of disappointing adults.
It's a big theme.
And,
it's
yeah.
youth versus age. The
And, like,
Vulture's old man.
Vulture's an old man.
Great visual
Dr.
spread
Octopus
here.
is a failed scientist.
Yeah, failed old scientist.
And they all find his youth very disquieting.
Well, and this is the thing I think that I love about the way in which Spider-Man's enemies are mirrors of him are that and this could be said for a lot of villains because this is sort of the essence of villainy, but Spider-Man has had some hard knocks and he handles them by trying to be better and stronger.
Yeah.
And if you made that other choice, if you had some hard knocks and you said, screw the world, I'm out for myself,
be a
you're a
Spider-Man
Spider-Man bad
guy.
guy.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
you're a
a
bad
lot
guy in general,
a lot
but
of, a lot of petty thieves with
Yeah.
access to a tiny bit of tech.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's a lot
or
of
this,
petty
or a
thieves
lot of
with a tiny
talent.
bit of tech.
Quentin Beck was just an ugly guy who couldn't make it in Hollywood as a leading man. So he's like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna use Hollywood special effects to rob banks. Like, what an asshole! What an asshole!
There's
He's
like,
so
way to weaponize
talented.
Bruce
by the way,
Campbell.
by the
So
way,
talented,
by the way,
yeah.
let me throw this out there. We need to still talk about who Green Goblin actually is in terms of what he can do as a villain. But Quentin Beck is also Mysterio, the dude with the
Yes.
He wears a
fishbowl on his head.
He's
Like-
great.
I'm so close to all these villains. I call them all by
No,
their first
I know,
names.
and
I'm like,
we-
Otto
we-
Octavius. Here's a guy.
We make the same mistake, which is why we're like, we should back up and explain.
Those of you who don't know.
I can dive into Shocker.
Herman Schultz?
Herman Schultz is
What
a mess.
piece of work that Herman is.
Oh, and like the whole thing with Electro at the beginning of the new Avengers.
I know.
Yeah.
So the
Costume or
Green
no
Goblin.
costume? Green Goblin.
He rides around now on a glider.
He's got a glider,
He's got
not a jet
cool
broom.
medieval sort of a chainmail look, a horrifying rubber mask,
It's a-
and he
and it's a
has
goblin mask,
It's a
yeah.
goblin mask. He has pumpkin bombs that he throws, and the way he's able to fly in the glider and do what he does is he has kind of a Captain America type power, an enhanced, super soldier serum almost
like a
coursing through his
gas.
veins.
But
yes,
the gas drove him insane.
Oh, he's crazy. Split
Crazy
personalities. He's lost his memory. He's come back from the dead.
Which is why a guy
Love
who has
Green
all the
Goblin.
money in the world is still robbing banks for reasons.
Yeah.
But
For power.
he's insane.
He
It's
becomes
just like
obsessed with Spider-Man. He's like, "You will be my heir," and Spider-Man's like, "Leave me alone, dude."
one of my favorite things about Green Goblin, especially when I was a kid, like one of the things that made me fall in love with him was that I felt like it was Halloween riding around this. I was like, it's Halloween, but like in one guy, and he just throws jack-o'-lantern pumpkin bombs and bat boomerangs and
Halloween.
There was also, I might add, that he also like stashed goblin kits all over the city, which means occasionally random people find goblin suits and goblin gliders and
Roderick
become
Kingsley
like
and-
superhero.
Yeah.
Like there's superhero, there's hobgoblins and demogoblin, demogoblin, and there's
And Ben Urich had a nephew named Phil.
Phil was a great goblin.
Phil became the Green Goblin also, but then it was like a good guy. But then it was funny that Phil had an Uncle Ben as well.
a whole
Ben
thing.
Urich. Dr.
reporter.
Octopus. Is
Otto Octavius.
Otto Octavius. Another.
So there's a lot to talk about Otto.
He's arguably his best villain, but my order goes Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Venom, and then Kraven, and then like everybody else. That's kind of my order of operations. That's my order of operations.
I would
Dr.
a few
Octopus,
others.
clearly the winner of best haircut.
Oh,
Easily,
yeah.
easily. I'm kind of
Absolutely.
rocking that haircut today.
I like also that he was a thick guy.
yeah. Yes. Different shaped villain. You know, they don't all
Alfred
have to
Molina
be
killed
buff.
it in Spider-Man 2
thought
as
so,
Doc
too.
Ock.
So good. So Otto Octavius was a guy who, again, sort of had a rough upbringing. He becomes a scientific genius. He accidentally gets fused to these arms that are like holding radioactive material. It's another character that in the 60s was a representation of the fear of the atomic age. And most of Spider-Man's villains, except for maybe like Morlun, come from like a sci-fi background, right? They're all just like Spider-Man, you know, they all come from science.
Very gadgety.
Very gadgety. And then he embarks on a life of crime. And he's the original master planner. He's the guy who originally founded the Sinister Six and invited the Green Goblin, but the Green Goblin was like, no, I'm going to kill Spider-Man by myself, which is so boss. That's so baller.
He's like, nah, screw you guys.
And then years later,
got
of course, the Goblin was part of the Sinister 12 or whatever. Like, eventually he teamed up, but like...
Sinister 70.
You know, the Sinister 70. And that's Doc Ock. And what a great villain to draw. Like, so fun to read in comic books with his 4 metallic arms. Like, it's just so much, visually, so
At
much
one
you could do.
point, wasn't he courting Aunt May?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But he didn't know that Aunt May was Peter Parker.
He
Like,
moved, she had a
boy.
spare room and he moved in and Peter was like, no. Oh, hilarious.
And
Aunt May has a pretty bad romantic track record.
I don't know if we have this image. I gotta find it
Oh,
because
God,
it's
no,
the
it's so
funniest
good.
shit ever. It's the cover, I think.
him drinking the tea in the living room is what I remember.
Oh my gosh! Even better is I think it was in the 70s. I'm gonna try to find it. There's a cover where Otto Octavius, Doc Ock,
The wedding
is
cover?
at the altar with Aunt May, and it's the perspective of the priest looking over the ceremony. And he just says, like, repeat after me. He says, with this ring, I thee web, because Spider-Man shot a web into the book, and it's the greatest. I love
it's
comic
pretty
books.
magical. Oh,
I
They're
love
so
it.
great.
one of my
man.
favorite things about Otto Octavius is what they ended up doing, and I know like some people may hate this story, but
I'm going right there with you.
I love Superior Spider-Man.
All right,
So-
so relatively recent storyline,
Dislike.
very much loved, very controversial at the time, but I have discovered over the time since it wrapped up, it has just improved in everybody's memory.
Yeah, of course, because it wasn't permanent. Of course.
There it is.
Oh,
There it is.
yes.
Oh God. With this ring, I thee web. That's what the guy says at the bottom, because he's like, oh, it's so great. It's so great. Look at that. Zoom in on that. Thwip.
What is Aunt May wearing?
Crawler over my dead body.
I thee web. God, I love
God,
that so
it's
much.
so good.
So I'm gonna speak really quickly to Superior Spider-Man. I love it when we get an opportunity to say like what would Spider-Man be like without blank or with blank.
I mean, it's
Tell
an
us what happens
in-canon
in
what
Superior
if.
So
Spider-Man.
Superior Spider-Man is basically Doc Ock is dying, and he from cancer,
right? Yeah.
and he figures out that he can actually brainwash Peter Parker and put his own brain inside Peter Parker and take over Spider-Man, become Spider-Man, and kill Peter Parker and take over his
So he
life.
basically like Freaky Fridays.
He
and
Freaky
Peter
Fridays,
Parker
and Peter Parker dies.
And Otto
in
Octavius
October,
is
and now-
cancer dying
And
body.
now Otto is Spider-Man. And the interesting thing that happens here, and the thing that I really like, and is that it creates, and of course, like anything, this is predicated that it was temporary, and we all knew it would be.
Like, what, year and a half, 2 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
a
so.
year and a half, yeah.
Is that it's what would Spider-Man be like if he weren't neurotic? Because he's smart, he's got all of he's kind of on a mission to be a better Spider-Man than Peter ever could. And he's not
Yeah, there it is.
he's not there with great power comes he's there with great power comes great responsibility, but he's not neurotic about it. He doesn't have that
like-
tragedy.
He sets out to be sort of this, like, if Spider-Man were ruthless, he could be way more effective.
Yeah.
And then he gets what makes the story worth reading is that he essentially gets kind of infected with Peter.
Yeah.
Like, he gets
Because there's
some
still
of
a
that.
bit of Peter still buried deep inside
Sure.
the back of the brain that he inhabits.
And it's a great story also because it leaves Peter Parker when Peter Parker
Spider-Man,
comes back. It leaves Peter with this very wonderfully awkward situation where he's now got a tech company that's doing well.
Yeah.
He's got a romantic life that's actually fun. Like somebody he's like come in and organized his life really
he had,
like only a villain
master
can.
planner.
Yeah, like only a villain can come in and be like, "This is a mess. You're an idiot." What do you mean? That was his. What do you mean you never got your degree? Are you crazy? He was like, "What is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you?"
Yeah.
I really love that he came in and was like, I can be a better Spider-Man. I can be a better hero. And there, some of the stuff from the story that I really liked was revisiting Otto's childhood, where he was abused and didn't have some of these similar sort of
Uncle Ben or Aunt May.
he didn't have an Uncle Ben and Aunt May. So he was like, I've been destined to be a villain my entire life, but I'm gonna turn it around.
That's cool.
I love that. I thought that was great.
He's actually decent. Other than the beginning when he blows up all of Parker's relationships, he actually ends up being pretty decent to people, in kind of a smug jerk way.
But again,
it was a rough reading experience for a lot of people, especially because at the time, the team and the staff of Marvel and everyone was giving all these interviews, being like, Peter's dead forever, he's really
But
dead, and we were all
I
like,
mean,
we know he's not,
know
but
he's
it
not.
hurts that you say that, and then. It's one of those, it's very difficult to tell a story like this without lying to your audience.
It's a comic book. He's
Yeah,
coming
it's just
back.
coming
Superman came back with a mullet. So will Spider-Man. It's okay.
And it also means now we have a much more interesting Dr. Octopus now.
Agreed. And we have an alternate universe Superior Spider-Man running around and all of the Spider-Verse stuff.
What's all the Spider-Verse stuff? Are we there yet? We have a lot more
I don't
stuff
know
to
if
get
we're
through.
quite there yet, but I will say this, just as a side note.
Oh Lord.
For the first time ever I got today, I signed up for Marvel Unlimited.
You didn't sign up for Marvel Unlimited?
Welcome to the club, man.
Welcome.
Dude, I am so excited. So now I'm
Dude, it's
going
the
to go
best.
and give
It's the
Superior
best.
Spider-Man a fair shot. I'm going to go and read the whole thing,
Nice.
and hopefully enjoy it. Because I remember when it first came out, the thing that rubbed me the wrong way was this notion of all of Peter's problems can be fixed if he were to kind of focus on himself a little bit. Because another thing that I love about Peter Parker and the idea of Spider-Man is that he's a character, to me, like Superman, unlike Iron Man and Batman, but like Superman, chooses to be poor. He chooses to make a meager living and get an apartment that is crappy just so that he can continue. You know why? Because he's going to keep helping people. He'll go to a job interview, but then on the way there's a bus that's out of control, and he's like, "I'm late to the job."
You're gonna like this then, because a lot of it is actually him trying to do all this and going well, that's not working.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Otto going well, that backfired.
Yes.
It's fine. I can make this work. There's a lot of that.
But there is it kind of comes to a
what is Peter's DNA. Sure.
yeah, it kind of comes to a place where he's like, no, you know what? He kind of was the Spider. I actually can't do this better.
I like the idea that the villain is like, your job is very easy, our job is hard. And then he's like, oh, your job's not that easy.
Yeah, your job's actually really tricky.
Then what else do we have? We've got the Vulture, Adrian Toomes, who is an old man who flies around. Sometimes he's able to suck youth energy from people, but he eventually has a daughter, and he's just an old guy who flies around.
Traditionally, he's another, my inventions were stolen, my hard work was taken advantage of.
And he's one of the very first. He was Spider-Man #2.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Super
tech
villain.
villains.
Yep.
There's Black Cat.
Black Cat,
Felicia Hardy.
Felicia Hardy.
A
He's
sort
more
of
of an anti-hero. She's
She's-
kind of
she
heroic
switches
here and
sides.
there.
villain with a code.
Villain with a
But
code.
she's had probability control abilities, but she's also just been just a very skilled cat burglar. There is the Sandman.
Like Spider-Man.
The Sandman Flint Marco. There we go. Nicely done, Chief. The Sandman Flint Marco is traditionally just one of these guys. It's Spider-Man. One of those villains who then gets the power to be a god because he can control every molecule in
sand,
his,
yeah.
control sand.
But he's going straight and narrow, and he's like, he's all right.
Got a daughter. All of that stuff. And then when he merged with Hydro Man, they became Mudman. It was real sad.
That was-
It was confusing for both of them. And that really happened. That was not a joke.
No, I'm Hydra Man.
Yeah, now we're Mudman. Electro Max Dillon is another sort of an idiotic character.
He's another
granted all
low
this
imp-
power.
yeah.
But why is he never a huge threat? Because of his own insecurities, his own,
You know what?
Another low
Self-limit.
self-esteem
A lot of
villain.
people getting in their own way, a lot of people getting
Shocker.
ripped off, a lot of people looking out for their family members, because this has always been a part of Spider-Man, is that once his uncle tragically dies, is being the 60s, his aunt being elderly, he's like, we're gonna get evicted if I don't figure this out.
Yeah.
Which is one reason why, I think, is he still rich in the comics? Is he still having his James Bond time?
Right.
I need to check in on him.
I think he's still Iron Man right now.
Traditionally,
He's still Iron Man right now.
traditionally he struggles. And
He'll get
that's
back
a
there.
big part of his thing, even though he's kind of a brilliant inventor kid.
MJ's got better things to do right now. She's over in Iron Man having a better time.
Other enemies. So many great villains. My fourth favorite villain of all time, Kraven the Hunter, Sergei Kraven.
Yeah.
This guy, talking about getting in your own way, becomes obsessed with Spider-Man because he's embarrassed by a kid, essentially. Over and over again. Spider-Man doesn't consider him a threat until finally, grab that book right there, Matt. That is Kraven's Last Hunt.
Oh,
he's
Yeah,
like,
on request in chat for coverage of this one.
he's like, fine, I'm gonna have to kill Spider-Man. I'm going to kill him, but not only that, I'm going to prove that I am his better.
Yeah.
And this is such a psychological, one of my favorite stories, such a messed up story where Kraven the Hunter kidnaps Peter Parker, buries him alive, puts on his own makeshift Spider-Man suit, runs around the city. Again, he doesn't have spider powers, but he's got like Kraven enhanced abilities. Runs around the city, kills like muggers that are like fighting this woman. A woman's like, help! And he comes down and just like kills them, and then like, just leaves like to prove that he's better than Spider-Man.
This was many, many years before Superior Spider-Man.
Yes, catches a villain who who was eluding Spidey, who was Vermin at the time.
Vermin,
Catches
yeah. He
him,
was
captures
basically
him,
like a
this
human rat.
this rat creature that was like killing people or whatever. And then at the end of the story, Peter Parker. Oh, but look at that! Look how good that is.
that.
So messed up.
This is one of my favorite writers. This is J.M. DeMatteis.
Yes.
and the black suit.
And Mike
I
Zeck, I
love
think.
it. Yeah.
Mike Zeck, yeah, exactly. And at the end, Spider-Man is able to, because of the love of Mary Jane Watson, because of wanting to get back to his wife, his fiancée at the time, breaks through, comes up from being buried alive, which is so crazy. I'm claustrophobic, so no thank you, no gracias. He comes out and goes after Kraven, and Kraven's like, you can kill me if you want. I've proved that I'm better than you because I captured you, so my life is set. By the way, I let Vermin go, so you should probably go stop him. Leave me alone in my mansion. And Peter Parker was like about to kill him because he was buried alive for days.
It was rough.
And then he is about to kill him and then lets him go. And as he leaves, Kraven the Hunter takes a shotgun and puts it in his mouth, and he says his last thought is,
Spoilers for Kraven's Last Hunt.
Well, no, I want to tell you this spoiler because I promise you will enjoy this story if you've never read it, even knowing the outcome.
Yep.
Because I knew the outcome as a kid, because I'm reading encyclopedias, because I'm reading the history of Marvel. When I finally got my hands on it, I was like, oh my God. Puts a shotgun in his mouth. The last thought he had was, they said my mother was crazy, and he pulls the trigger because his life was over. And they didn't do that with villains at the time. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So Kraven the Hunter, it's a highlight. Go read it. And God, I love that character so much.
My God, now that we've covered villains, oh man, we are rolling.
We got to talk about Grizzly. We got to talk
No,
about.
we are not talking about Grizzly.
Let's do this. Go down the line. Favorite Spider-Man storyline.
Oh God, we really have to start with me. You start,
Maximum Carnage.
Maximum
Nice.
Carnage.
Nice.
Maximum Carnage was what got me into Spider-Man when I was a kid. Like, I'd read a couple books here and there. I was like, yeah, I like Spider-Man. But like, I was still like a Doctor Strange kid and an X-Men kid pretty early on. But tingly.
We haven't talked about Carnage.
No, I know, but
man.
like Maximum Carnage.
He's like the more extreme Venom, and he's awesome.
He's like imagine the Batman's Joker, and now give him the Venom symbiote.
Yeah.
Boom, Carnage. Like, he's just like, I'm gonna walk in and I'm just gonna kill everybody. Like, fuck it. Boo, 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 you're all dead. That was awesome. Like, so.
It's the 90s.
Like, he's a very violent, just unhinged, insane, no redeeming qualities in any capacity character. And like, I don't love Maximum Carnage for Carnage. I love Maximum Carnage because it was a slow build to a gigantic team up. Like, where I fell in love with Maximum Carnage was like in the fourth or like, I think maybe the fourth chapter, where like Spider-Man's like just beaten. He's like, I can't beat Carnage and Shriek and Doppelganger Spider-Man. Like, I'm sunk. Like, Carrion can touch people and kill them with a touch. Like, I'm screwed. And then Captain America arrives. He's like, looks like you need help, chum. And I'm like, oh my God, Spider-Man and Venom and Captain America are teaming up? Yes! Like, all about Cloak and Dagger show. Like, it's a giant team.
Very firmly lived in the wider Marvel universe, which is a lot of fun. Like, in these sort of, everybody lives in New York and runs into each other all the time. It's like, that's been a really fun thing. Like, it's a thing that was really fun watching Spider-Man Homecoming was seeing him inhabit the wider Marvel universe. Is really,
he is a perspective character.
He stands alone beautifully. His stories stand alone, but I've always loved that he's connected in that way.
Yeah, so Maximum Carnage is definitely like, that was the first comic I ever saw where a dude got killed by a villain, was in Maximum Carnage. Like, Carnage like walks into MJ's club. I think it was MJ's club, maybe I'm wrong. He walks in, he's just like, ha, fuck all you guys, boom. And like, there's a dude who gets like skewered by one of the barbs, like one of his symbiote barbs, and like you see it going through his back, and I was like, that dude just died. Oh my God, this dude means business. Yeah.
I think Marvel Team Up may have been my favorite Spider-Man book. My original answer would have been The Superior Foes of Spider-Man, even though Spider-Man's not in it. This book is so amazing.
That counts.
I love this book so much. This book has so much. Just the Beetle always on her phone is, I mean, like, the Beetle is just made of shade, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And her whole origin is brilliant. And Shocker just being the world's worst person.
So this book, very funny, very emotionally engaging.
Very funny, very emotionally engaging. This is just
writes
about who writes this?
It's Nick Spencer and Steve Lieber, who are a duo now. They write an indie book called The Fix that's supposed to be really
The Fix
good.
is good, and they were doing Ant-Man and his Ant-Man security thing, where like Grizzly's a part of that team, which I love so much.
And like, there's a whole thing with the
Poor
wizard where he's
Grizzly.
just like, he gets angry at a pet store and just steals a dog from somebody just because he's just that sad that now he just has a dog and he just did it to make the point, and it's really irritating.
That's great.
It's just, they're just terrible, and they don't know what they're doing. It's great. That and like the Captain Britain Spider-Man team up is amazing. Cool. Spider-Man on the moon. I mean, Spider-Man meets
I'm
the
gonna
Watcher.
throw out my vote for favorite and like intro recommendation is going to be Spider-Man Blue. It's a standalone story. You get in, you get out, you get introduced to the major players in his world, and it'll break your heart. It's written by Jeff Loeb, art by Tim Sale. They've collaborated a number of times, and they sort of specialize in kind of coming in, showing you the whole world, and wrapping it up.
Yeah. My answer will be, it's tough. It's either Ultimate Spider-Man, but I'm going to
Ultimate's
go
definitely up there.
J. Michael Straczynski's Amazing Spider-Man run when he hopped on in the early 2000s. First of all, you go get the first volume, and it has the issue where Spider-Man deals with the events of 9/11. And it is
That's a very heavy book.
That's a heavy one.
industry-changing
That's a heavy one.
book, and I can still cry tears just thinking about this comic and thinking about where I was when that happened, and it's incredible. You get to volume 2, and it has my single favorite issue, which is issue 500. And it's part 3 of a storyline called Happy Birthday. Yeah. And in this, he teams up with Doctor Strange because some Doctor Strange stuff is happening, which is great. Also, you got to know this about Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, both created by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko.
Yeah.
So they're Ditko guys. So it's cool that they have a little, friendship.
And like, they're like super good friends.
Pretty much everybody else was co-created by Lee and Kirby,
Correct.
which is why
They
we're
are
calling out the Lee Ditkos.
and which is why they both do this. That makes sense. Ditko is a lazy. He just did the same hand thing. At the end of the story, Spider-Man is traveling through his entire history and having to relive everything because it's so sad and tragic, and why not? Happy birthday. And at the end of it, he comes to a point where he's at his beginning and at his end. He is sitting in a closet at the science exhibition where he's about to get bit by a spider. And he could, with his spider powers, prevent it and save Uncle Ben's life, effectively. And he's also in this, oh God, it gives me chills. He's in this graveyard in some point in the ambiguous future where he's an older man. He's got this rad jacket, my favorite alternate costume, this cool jacket costume. This cop walks up to him, surrounded by cops. I'm gonna let you borrow it. Surrounded by cops. And this police chief who's been working with comes up to him and he's like, you know what has to happen now? And he goes, yes, don't look back. Just know that, this is how it has to be. And he walks away. He's like, okay, I tried to help you. And he goes, you can't help me. This is the way it has to be. Oh, look at that fly. Get out of here, fly. Is that real?
Fly.
Oh, my gosh. All of these cops are there. Peter Parker from the future, this old man, turns around to this gravestone that our current Peter is hiding behind at the same time, simultaneously. And he says to him, I know you're back there. I know you can hear me. You can't do anything about this. It's better this way. It's better because of something that happened, something that he did, something that somebody said he did. He's wanted by all these police, and he's going to get taken down by these cops. And he tells current day Peter, it's better this way. It's better for MJ, and it's better. Oh, I'm going to choke up. I'm serious. It's better for our son, Ben. And then he just jumps into, he says something to the effect of, you just got to know, though, that at the end, you go down clean, and you go down fighting, and this is the way it's got to be. And he just jumps into he hides back into the rain, and all the cops don't see him anymore, and then he just jumps into a fray and just starts taking dudes out as they're fighting him, and then he gets shot and killed. And he's just a clean shot, boom, and he gets taken out. You go down clean. And Peter sees all this happen while he's also seeing him get bit by a spider because he's also thinking, I can't save Uncle Ben because all of the people that I saved as Spider-Man will die. I have to let that happen. I have to let Gwen Stacy die. I have to let Ben die. I have to let it all happen. And he does, and it happens. And then I won't tell you what happens at the end of that story, but he's traveling through time. It is the best. And what happens at the end of that issue 500, I can look at it as the ending of the story of Spider-Man. You can also, because
So
of
you
what
don't
happens.
continue on to One More Day?
Oh, I do. I mean, you could skip some of that stuff,
there's a
but
lot of good
So
stuff.
Spider's got some missteps.
Lot
We
of
don't
good
want to
stuff.
devote a lot of space to them, but there are also some sort of
big time
famously
missteps.
disliked stories
Yeah.
in the Spider-Man mythos. We've had a lot of requests for an entire episode talking about the Clone Saga. So there's a lot of tears in chat right now, by the way.
Oh my God.
Speaking of tears, the boy who collects Spider-Man, the kid who collects
Oh,
Spider-Man.
no.
You son of a bitch. You. Oh.
What issue is that? We should tell them.
It is amazing. It's the kid who collects Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 248.
Found it before I did.
It's well, I wrote it down because I was like, well, we've got to talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
So the issue itself is about Spider-Man taking on Thunderbolt,
Who cares?
Thunder something.
Not important.
What did you say, Thundercat?
Yeah, it takes on Thundercat.
One of the wrecking crew, which whatever. But the very end has like a 10-page kind of backstory about this kid who is Spider-Man's biggest fan, and he collects all this stuff about Spider-Man. He's got newspaper clippings and scrapbooks, and he's got souvenirs from crime scenes where Spider-Man has saved the day, and Spider-Man pays him a visit. Can we spoil
spoil it
like spoilers?
because people will still enjoy it.
Hector will
Because
spoil
like
all the things.
I knew the ending of the story. What do you have?
Nice.
Oh God, it's
He's showing off his powers. He's lifting the kid on the bed, and he's telling him how his web shooters work, and and then at the end he reveals he's like, I'm Peter Parker. I'm the photographer that took all the pictures. He's like, wow,
And
I
the-
won't tell anybody, Spider-Man. I promise.
the kid even says to Peter Parker, "You mean the guy who makes fun, like who is always like saying you're such a menace? You sell your pictures to that guy, and you've been there the whole time." And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "That's awesome!" Like the kid is like, "You're trolling the shit out of that dude. That's awesome."
Made the kid's life. Made the kid's life.
Made the kid's life. And like for the entire book, or this entire story, you're just like, like Peter Parker's a good guy. And like you have, so the Daily Bugle ran a newspaper article about this kid because he's like, hey, there's Spider-Man's biggest fan. But then at the end, and you see clippings of it throughout the entire story. But then at the very end, you can see like Spider-Man's kind of sad for some reason, right? He's at the Slocum Brewer Cancer Clinic. And at the end of that, God, I'm almost choking up now. At the
Kid's
end,
terminal. Yeah.
At the end of the newspaper article, it says he's his biggest fan. We hope Spider-Man somewhere is reading these words because doctors only give Timmy a few more weeks to live. And it's heavy. And Spider-Man is just like the very last panel is Spider-Man like standing on the wall, just like head down, just like.
Somehow this is my fault.
Like, somehow this is my fault. But like, there's this element of like,
this is the Spider-Man creed. Is somehow this is my fault.
Somehow this is my fault.
like,
J.
there
Jonah
is-
Jameson's like, yeah, it is.
you're a menace. But there is something to be said for like, you just like, no matter how hard you fight and all this other stuff, you just can't save them all. So all you can do is be the best person you can be and go make a little kid's day, you know?
So I want to switch gears for a minute because this is called Spider-Verse, and there was this big story, and I'm not necessarily saying that we're going to get into the story because it has to do with vampires and spider archetypes and this whole thing, but a character like Spider-Man, Spider-Man's one of the most popular superheroes in the world. Superman, Batman, Spider-Man are like, there are people who have never touched a Spider-Man book in all over the world who know what Spider-Man looks like.
Yeah.
Because of that, we've had all of these different avatars of Spider-Man. There have been different people in the suit. There have been different characters that have connected. There have been different versions. Hundreds of different versions of this character
2099.
who have appeared over the time, like the future Spider-Man of Spider-Man 2099.
Spider-Woman.
The Spider, Jessica Drew, the Spider-Woman. Spider-Girl. There's been
Mayday
The
Parker.
future
Miles
daughter
Morales.
of
The what if alternate universe, yeah.
Ultimate Spider-Man Miles Morales.
There was a Japanese manga of
Silk.
Spider-Man, Silk. There was a Japanese Spider-Man live-action television series with a giant robot.
I have pictures of that pulled.
We did have some love for Ben Reilly in chat while I dissed the
Yeah.
Clone Saga.
Yes.
Very sorry, guys. Nothing against Ben.
Oh, don't forget
Ben's-
Peter Porker.
Peter Parker, Spider-Man.
Oh, wait, we got to have a moment for Japanese Spider-Man.
Yes.
His mega spider Zord.
That's why he's still huge in Japan, Spider-Man. Like he's still a big deal.
He was
in
on
Japan.
television. It was a good show. It was
Yeah.
fun.
Go to YouTube and look up Japanese Spider-Man title sequence.
And you will-
It's great.
you will enjoy it.
It's great.
Peter Porker, the spectacular Spider-Ham.
Oh, Mommy Panda, Aranya, another Spider Girl.
Aranya, another one. A really fun one.
Yeah.
So
Anya Corazon.
And can I just go straight to calling this out?
yeah,
Oh,
do
yeah.
it.
Because
One of our favorites.
one of the very recent, and I'm sorry, Sinistral LP in chat, but I'm gonna have to fight with you because I believe you were saying that you didn't love this idea, but sometimes something that sounds like it's gonna be a terrible idea turns out to be friggin' amazing.
Yeah.
Like, what if there was a universe where Gwen Stacy is the one who lived?
This
who
this
gets the
book
spider bite?
had no right to be.
It had no right. And by the way, this belongs to
Anything.
Chief.
Yeah.
This belongs
Yeah,
to Zach
Chief is-
Wilson. I'm sorry, belonged.
that?
Belonged
It's
until
gone now.
now.
He's never seeing it
To
again.
Zach Wilson. It's been signed by Jason Latour, I think.
With a little sketch.
And yeah, I'll just be leaving.
This was a costume design that really kicked off of a Spider Gwen, and
Yeah.
and I gotta say, like,
So
this
it's not
is
our Gwen. It is not the one who died, leaving such an impact on Peter Parker. It is a different world where she got the bite, and a poor high school-aged Peter Parker was dealing with some difficult stuff, and took the classic wrong road
Yeah.
of Spider-Man comics.
Peter became the
the
lizard.
lizard.
Became the lizard.
And Spider Gwen also, I might add, like, she's a fascinating character. It's a fascinating take on the character. It's
Plays in a punk
It was-
band called the Mary Janes.
called the Mary Janes,
Yep.
which you can actually find they have some music you can download to listen to the Mary Janes.
Done
Who's
by
in that
Mary
band?
DeCima.
Mary Jane is in that band. Glory Grant is in that
there we
band,
go.
right?
Yeah, there we go.
So the cool thing about this comic is that, like, the thing that a huge shared universe and many, many years of storytelling gets you is that, like, people are going to throw things at the wall over and over and over again. Crazy stuff is going to happen. And every once in a while, something which, the reason that what he's holding is Edge of Spider-Verse #2 is that they were getting ready for this big story which was going to involve a million different versions of Spider people. And they were like, make up some more, make up some new ones. We'll use everyone that existed and make up some new ones.
Yeah.
So we'll have a 5-part series, and each issue's just some new Spider person.
some
There were
alternate
5 of them.
universe, yeah.
Like, just be like you, this one, you, this one, you, this one. And this was a, what about a universe where it's Gwen?
And
people lost their
people
minds.
went nuts.
Because it was one of the great, like, combinations of art and writing and, like, timing. And she got greenlit as her own book. It continues to this day. It has restarted, but, like, it just the
Now
numbering, not the
she's
story.
making out with Miles Morales.
Yeah.
and it's
They're both in our universe.
It's weirdly punk. It's like a very punk rock Spider-Man. It's a great, even with the UK punk Spider-Man, which is a whole different one.
All right.
so,
Before we wrap up, we do have. It's time for our 5-minute question.
Oh, no.
We've been soliciting topics for the Wednesday Club for our 5-minute timed question.
Okay.
And they're gonna get the. Oh wait, they've started it already. Question: what Spider-Man villain are each of you from Dark Ivan 00? Go.
Oh my God.
Oh, I've got to go with it. Which Spider-Man villain am I? Oh, God, that's a really hard question, but I have only a minute to think about it. God, that's really tough.
Minute free for all.
I guess I would probably. Does the Prowler count? Because I really dig the Prowler. I
Prowler
love.
counts.
I
He's a
love.
villain.
He's kind of Spider-Man, but he's kind of trying hard. I like the idea of a schmuck, and I'm a bit of a schmuck, so I'm always a big fan of the Prowler. And Prowler's like kind of a hero, kind of a villain. He's got
us
some
about the
gadgets. He's got some gadgets. He kind of wants to be a superhero, but he's not really very good at it. And he wears a costume that kind of looks like Spider-Man and Spawn had an illegitimate child with a lot of purple. It's kind of a big, terrible mess, but I've always been a big fan of it. And I'll also say that Jeffrey Thorne gave me the best pitch for a Prowler comic many years. I shouldn't say that. Like a decade ago. I doubt he remembers.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. If I can ever get him to come on and do that would be amazing. Moving on.
There's some good, crappy villains
All
in
right.
here, y'all.
Yeah.
You're cheating.
Oh, they are
think-
cheating.
I think I am definitely the Demo Goblin. No, I'm not the Demo Goblin. I'm the Jackal because I'm obsessed with Spider-Man. Yeah, I like to order my little world around him, and I'll collect him, and I'm obsessed with Gwen Stacy. I'm a real creepy creep. No.
Oh no.
That got really dark really quick.
Maybe the Jackal. I think I'm also. I'll go Green Goblin 2, Harry Osborn.
Harry's Green Goblin was a very sad one.
Very
Yeah.
sad, very, but still like a young guy, and I don't know. Or maybe I'm Electro. I don't know. I don't know. It's
You're a
tough.
shapeshifter.
Because the real answer is
You're a
I'm
chameleon.
Spider-Man, but yeah, maybe I'll be Chameleon. Maybe I will be, what was his real name? It was also
He had a weird name.
Kravinoff, wasn't it?
Sergey?
Yeah.
It wasn't Sergey. What was it?
I feel like it was Sergey.
No, that's Kraven the Hunter.
It was
Sergey Kravinoff.
and it was very Eastern European.
It
Ser-
was
Sergey
like
Kravinoff,
Dmitri. Dmitri, like Anatolov or something like that. I don't know.
We're
Amy,
out
do
of
you have
time and
yours?
you haven't picked
The
something.
chameleon.
Matt, are you
I'll
good?
pick the chameleon.
I'm gonna go with the Vulture.
Nice.
Oh, damn it. I was gonna
Oh
go with
no!
you.
I'll,
Go,
then I'll
go,
do.
go, go.
I'll be
No,
Mysterio.
go.
I'm
No,
Mysterio.
you're Vulture.
No,
Go.
my second one was Mysterio. I'm gonna say Mysterio.
Vulture.
Go! I don't want to steal it from you, though.
No, go.
I love you so much. Okay, I'm the Vulture because I'm starting to really feel my age. Like I'm not even like an old man, like per se, but like. I'm getting to that age where I'm like, I don't understand internet culture anymore, and I don't understand, like, I know what memes are, but I don't know what the fresh ones are. So like, I'm starting to feel like my mom and dad, where they're like, that sure is cool, and I'm like, oh no, I'm that guy. I'm becoming screw all you little kids. I'm not you anymore. So like, I feel like I'm actually starting to become the Vulture, and I want to reclaim my youth and start like. And I'm not even old. I don't even like actually really truly feel that way. But if I have to choose a villain, like.
Yeah.
What's that?
I think I may be older than everyone at this table.
I know you're older than me, but like.
You're basically that guy.
Yeah, that's
Basically,
I think we can all
Adrian
agree.
Toomes. I loved
right.
in
No,
the.
no,
I was
Yeah,
gonna pick
you go.
Vulture
Go
because just of the motivations for Spidey villains, like Black Cat's the coolest, but I could never be that, and I don't have
Oh,
that same
you are
like.
that. Come on.
Well, thank you. But I don't have that same like I'll decorate my apartment with your riches and laugh in all your faces. But I can totally relate to
Literally
traditional
just stole
Adrian
this.
Toomes of like I put hard work and life into this thing, and if I saw somebody steal it and there was just nothing I could do, I get that. I get how that could just push you right over the edge. It doesn't make you a murderer, like, but there's I really love the humanity in that and the just sort of the helplessness. Like I think if something were going to make me turn villainous in that way, like I could really see it being that. So that's I have extra time, but Adrian
I'm going
Toomes
to
is great.
point out that you did just steal someone's riches to decorate your lair with.
Not Felicia Hardy at all.
All right, so we have a minute left. What if you each say who we each think each other is?
I was actually thinking about the rose. The rose is a really fun spider. I was like kind of going for the rose
Richard
for you.
Fisk, the
Yeah.
Kingpin's son.
Really a character
So
I
wait,
really
who
enjoy.
you think I am, or
You kind of got the rose vibe going on. Yeah, just quiet mastermind in the back. No one's paying attention, but then yeah.
I think you're Mr. Negative because you're a total psycho.
Oh,
no,
thanks.
you're not. That's,
I'll take
I
that.
hope you're not.
I think
you're not, but-
Matt's Dr. Octopus.
you think? Because I'm like a freak? Because I'm a little overweight? Because I'm a little pudgy? Like,
Because it's close to Doctor Strange. You're like a doctor.
yeah,
You're
I'm a
smart like a
doctor,
doctor,
sure.
but you could also be like, you could also be so mean. Matt Key, you're so mean sometimes.
I think Taliesin is Mysterio because Taliesin twists your mind.
absolutely.
He gives you vision.
Absolutely.
That's true. Or J. Jonah Jameson.
I could do that. I would love to do
you
that.
could be. Oh,
Spider
and,
Menace.
Amy is definitely Black Cat.
Look at
Yeah,
that.
no, I'm
You
feeling
got
it.
the hair 'cause of the
Yeah,
hair.
I've got the hair.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I need a haircut very badly. Black Cat because you're cool as shit.
Out. Thank you for
Yeah.
watching. This has been our Wednesday Club 5-minute challenge. Thank you for the topic, Dark Ivan 00. And thanks,
Well
Hector,
done.
for being here.
You're very welcome. Nah, Amy's like the shocker.
Because she's shocking.
Or
Yeah.
Silver Sable because you're more or less good and you're kind of in
that's true.
charge.
Amy's
of all of
definitely
Wednesday.
Swarm, the group of Nazi bees. No, I'm just kidding.
love
No.
Swarm.
Swarm's so terrible.
Swarm was like the
Nazi
best part of the
bees.
Broadway show. There was a Spider-Man Broadway show.
I didn't see it.
No one saw it.
No.
All right, so we've
we
got 10
talking
minutes
about
left.
Miles Morales?
Do we want to hit on
Who's Miles Morales?
Yeah.
Oh, Miles Morales is the replacement Spider-Man, but he's so much more than that. He's the character who came in and took over the mantle, was introduced by writer Brian Michael Bendis after a couple of things happened in the real world.
And
Number
artist Sarah
one,
Pichelli, right?
artist Sarah Pichelli. Number one thing that happened in the real world is that last time Spider-Man was being rebooted in movies, the name was being thrown around Donald Glover. People wanted Donald Glover for Peter Parker, Donald Glover for Spider-Man. Donald Glover even said he wanted to play Spider-Man. That would be cool. And then he made a whole bit about it in his stand-up about how the internet is an incredibly racist place and would hate that idea. Brian Michael Bendis saw that and was kind of, gestating it. I also think that part of what happened is that Brian Michael Bendis adopted he has 3 kids as far as I know, possibly, I think he has 4. He has,
Wow, I knew about
he has a
3.
daughter, a son, and he has 2 adopted daughters. One of them is African American, and the other one is from Ethiopia. And I think that probably, this is a white guy who lives in Portland, who has been writing superhero comics for decades now.
Yeah.
Most of them living in New York.
A
But
bunch
this is
of
who
really excellent superhero comics,
Really
by
good.
the way.
Brian Michael
Co-created
Bendis.
Jessica
Fantastic
Jones,
really
wrote The
prolific,
Avengers.
just pumps them out, man. So I think that these things are happening where Brian was looking at the world and he was like, what can I do in my position as a comic book writer to introduce characters that maybe my daughters can relate to, that maybe other kids who aren't what is considered the norm, who aren't white kids who are growing up with superheroes that most of them are white. What can I contribute to this, and what kind of a character would it be, and what would that story be? And he took advantage of the fact.
Timing with that, maybe it sounds like you're about to say this, but the Ultimate Universe, this other version of Marvel that starts in the year 2000, was designed to be like to not follow some of the traditional rules of comics. The idea was in the Ultimate Universe, if you died, you stayed dead. There would be real permanent change in some of these books.
Oh, and
that
there
was an
was.
idea that was
there
supposed to
was,
be baked in,
Wolverine
and
died.
so you get opportunities like.
The death of Spider-Man. Bendis thought about all of this and was like, what if I took this opportunity, this advantage of this universe that kind of doesn't count? You're still going to have regular adult Peter Parker, even though it made national news, of course it did, as all these comic book stories do. When you replace Thor with a woman or you replace Hulk with an Asian guy, Fox News gets really mad that Captain America's a black guy and he's fighting people at the border, U.S.-Mexico border. When they don't know, again, it's all cyclical, and he will eventually not be Captain America, and he'll go back
We
to
have
being
no
Falcon.
idea that
and
he
they
gave
have
up
no
the name
idea.
and started calling himself Nomad in the late 70s and was already, whatever, we've been here.
Yeah.
So
Nixon.
So Peter Parker dies. He dies in one of my
very
favorite
heroic
stories.
death, too.
Oh
Like,
my
wow.
God.
The most
It's a
Spider-Man
really
death.
Good book.
Like it is.
Fighting the Sinister Six
fantastic.
on the front lawn of Aunt May's house in Forest Hills, Queens.
After saving Captain America, like he just has a whole
After
day.
saving Captain America, who was saying you're not ready to be a hero, kid.
Takes a bullet for Captain America, and like it's just it's just a day of pain.
Yeah. And when he's dying in Aunt May's arms, she's crying. She's like, no, not you too, not you too. And he goes, it's okay, May, it's okay. I couldn't save Ben, but I could save you. I could save you. And then dies.
Nice.
And it's
He's done
the
stuff.
best
It's really good.
thing ever.
It's amazing.
So go read that. But while that was happening, people didn't know this, but in the bushes was Miles Morales, who was a kid, a 13-year-old kid, not a 16-year-old Peter Parker, who that's how old he was at the time when he died. 13-year-old, half black, half Latino kid, Puerto Rican kid in New York, who also got bitten by another genetically engineered spider months before, who also was like, maybe I can be a Spider-Man as well. Hears about this thing that's happening, these villains attacking this kid and his house in Forest Hills, Queens. He goes out there, but doesn't do anything. This becomes his Uncle Ben moment because Peter dies. And then he goes to the funeral because the world knows that Spider-Man is Peter Parker. The world finds out. And so he goes to this very public funeral in New York City. Miles Morales, this 13-year-old kid, doesn't know what to do with his powers, and he sees Gwen Stacy.
Gwen Stacy.
And he just asks, why did he do it? And Gwen stops and turns around and goes and lays it out. And she's like, because he had an uncle. Because with great power comes great responsibility. And Miles goes back and just like, I messed up. And then he becomes Spider-Man. He gets a costume. Nick Fury helps him out a little bit because Nick Fury's like, I got to help this kid out. I got to look
Gwen
out for him.
Stacy help him out a little bit.
Gwen
A little bit,
Stacy,
yeah.
and then
Chat is full of tears, which is appropriate.
Miles Morales
He's a different
is
Spider-Man.
Different. He does different things. He has different powers. But at the end of the day, he is Spider-Man because he's a kid who's in over his head, who is trying to do the right thing, and he is failing.
And he's
He
a
loses
different kind of
loved
funny.
ones. He's a different kind of funny.
He's not a bully. I find it interesting.
Yeah.
He manages to not be a bully the way that Parker is.
He's it's almost like a Jackie Chan type energy where Jackie Chan, when in his fights, is always like, I don't want any trouble, and then like tries to get out of
Why are you
that's
doing this?
Spider-Man. That's Miles.
Very quickly, we should mention
Yeah.
that because of the nature of comics, eventually the Ultimate Universe got shut down, but they rescued a couple of people that they couldn't really live without, and one of them was Miles Morales. He lives in our Marvel, the plain, regular Marvel universe now, and he's also Spider-Man.
Which is awesome and also a huge bummer.
It's
because
weird.
I love the idea that Miles is Spider-Man, period. He's not the black Spider-Man, the Latino
he was the
Spider-Man, the other
Spider-Man of his
Spider-Man.
world.
He was the only one of his world, exactly. So I think a little bit of that was lost since those original stories. But you go back and you read those original stories, they're
they're
there.
And if you saw
know.
the movie Spider-Man Homecoming, they are laying some seeds.
They are definitely laying
Exactly.
Laying some seeds. Sure.
Isn't that great that Donald Glover is playing his uncle? Isn't that great?
Yeah.
And
So
it's
Donald Glover
kind
in
of
the
part of the
movie-
whole origin.
And that character is so. Oh God, there's so much.
Yeah.
There's so much.
Prowler, Tal.
Exactly.
Donald Glover's
There's
character.
Karis the Prowler. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so
But
into
it's not
it.
Hobie
I'm
Brown,
so
it's
into
the
it.
ultimate. It's I can't
Davis.
remember. Aaron Davis, thank you. It's the yeah. So,
a
but the
great
Prowler is like a master thief essentially.
Yeah, I mean he's an all right guy though.
And he's
code.
essentially responsible for Miles Morales becoming Spider-Man because he's the one who steals the spider and all that other stuff.
His
Yeah.
evil uncle.
Thor's
His
Banhammer
opposite
says,
to the uncle.
this show is making me want to go buy comics again. We are doing our job.
Go get this.
Go.
Miles Morales, The Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Collection, Volume 1.
And I'll tell you, like
welcome. Fantastic.
the whole Ultimate Run is a great way to
Yes,
go. You
great.
get Parker beginning, the end, and you get the beginning of Miles. Miles.
Yep.
And you don't have a lot of other crossover books that you need to go read. So that is a really good place to start, and it's a fantastic updating.
You're welcome.
There's so much. I mean, we'll probably throw a few more out there. The Superior Foes of Spider-Man, the Straczynski book, obviously. I know we got to wrap it up.
We got to wrap it up. Do we know what we're talking
I know
about
you've even got
next week?
Spider-Woman Origin there, which is a fun book. But
That's a cool book.
but like
Jessica Drew, where
Jessica
she's
Drew,
Hydra.
who's a whole
Spider-Woman.
another
Funny
character.
story, she's named Spider-Man. She's not really connected to the rest
Not
of this.
at
She's
all.
just a spider person.
Hey, she could stick to walls.
Can she?
Yeah, she can.
Jessica
She can.
Drew.
Yeah, she
She's
can.
got the stings, but
Yeah, she could. Listen. New Avengers, she's hanging up on walls. She can stick to walls.
Yeah.
She can't stick to walls. She can stick to
read
walls.
that run and
I'll-
did not retain that.
There's a great run
find
of
it right now.
Avengers where Spider-Woman and Spider-Man are Avengers together, and like he keeps commenting that I let you franchise.
Chief is right. For more on Miles Morales, check out Alpha Comic Book Club from a few weeks ago, right? Y'all read Volume 1?
Yeah. We did it.
Solid.
We went
Just
over
a
it.
few weeks ago.
So we need to start shutting the show, winding it down.
Yeah,
we got
so
2 minutes.
I'll say my name is Taliesin Jaffe. You can find me online at Executive Goth everywhere that matters, and you can see me. The last episode of Dread is this Thursday, and you can see me tomorrow on Critical Role on this very channel.
My name is Amy Dallen. You can find me at EnthusiAmy, and I hope you will stay tuned in just a second because myself and our wonderful special guests here are going to be on Shield of Tomorrow.
Tonight.
And who are you?
I'm Hector Navarro, and I'm on Shield of Tomorrow tonight. So stay tuned for that.
My name is Matt Key, at the Matt Key on Twitter, and I have an Instagram that I never use. My wife will yell at me for that. And I also do Marvel movie news on Tuesdays at 2:30, and I write for Geek Girl Authority from every day. So, do we know what we're gonna?
Much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Do we have a topic for next week? Do we want
figure it
to?
out.
We committed.
If you have suggestions, let us know. Bye.
Bye, guys.